experience diving in some early fantasy football rankings. Yeah, it's March, so we're talking football and football rankings because, hey, nothing can change between now and the start of the season, can it? You gotta get this stuff out here early. Build up them clicks. We're gonna be reviewing free agency. Joining me to do this, an old school throwback crew. Garion Thorne's here.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
You like football.
I do like football, especially on the first day of March Madness and right in the midst of fantasy baseball season.
So what's going to happen is you can find all my updated rankings on dkplaybook.com. I'll update them. I'm actually going on vacation later today, so I'll try to update them while I'm on the beach in Mexico.
Right.
But I might not do that. So I'll have Celie on next week to kind of revamp all the rankings, and we'll go through even more free agency moves. Because guess what? If a free agency move happens after we record this, we can't actually know about it while we're recording. So when people message me, be like, how do you even got confidence? It's because we already recorded it.
But I have a question, Pat.
Oh, yes. Let's take one from the crowd.
How can I overreact to rookies if they haven't been drafted yet?
Oh, you see, that's going to be another show that I do to double down on the clicks after the draft. So I actually don't have any rookies in the rankings right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not in the league right now.
Yeah.
And this way, that when they get drafted and I can make my rankings again, they'll be completely different.
There we go.
And I don't have to be tied to whoever I ranked ninth, because I put a lot of thought into this. I'm not going to lie to you. So joining us to break this all down, myself and Garion, it is, well, maybe your favorite, not our favorite, but he is on the line. It's Tim Andergust!
Tim Andergust.
That is not my name.
No, your name, sir.
I just assume since I'm the king of all kings when it comes to rankings, that's why I was invited on the show.
You know what? I actually had not considered that.
Yeah.
You do
That
love
is
a
right.
ranking. Like, everyone must trust your rankings, because as we may recall, if people are unfamiliar with Tim, he did have raisins listed as his #1 Halloween candy.
That is a lie. It was not number one.
What was it?
Number 4.
Oh, it was number 4.
Yeah,
What
it was
was
top
the top?
5.
What was the top 4?
Candy corn was number 1. Those mallow cream pumpkins was number 2. And I do believe Reese's peanut butter cups was 3.
No, nothing that rational would have been.
No, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Peeps were 3.
Yeah, there it is.
Then it was raisins. Then it was Reese's peanut butter cups. And that is the definitive ranking.
Do you know what myself and a lot of people have said about your rankings, Tim?
That they're stupendous. And how do you do it?
Sad.
I don't think a lot of people were saying that.
No,
You are.
I think a lot of people were saying that.
I feel like you've scaled back a bit on your rankings the past couple weeks, or even months.
Well, I try to pick my spots. I had a
Right.
great one. Yeah, I've had a couple of good ones the last week or so, but I've been trying to pick my spots.
Yeah, not wisely. You're not good at picking spots. Let's get into the actual NFL. That's why people are here. Quarterbacks, we will start with in terms of free agency. So here's a rundown of, there's probably even more than this that I didn't even find, but we got Kirk Cousins signing with Minnesota, Case Keenum to the Broncos, Tyrod traded to the Browns, Teddy Bridgewater signs with the Jets, Sam Bradford to Arizona along with Mike Glennon as a backup, Alex Smith traded from Kansas City to Washington, which feels like it happened about 18 years ago at this point. It happened the day I was on Radio Row. We have Deshaun Kaiser, Tim's buddy, Keisman, the Keisman Trophy winner, traded to Green Bay to be Aaron Rodgers' backup. A.J. McCarron signs with the Bills. Trevor Siemian traded to Minnesota from Denver to be the backup. Tommy Macho King Savage to New Orleans to be Breeze's backup. And Chase Daniel signs with the Bears to be Mitch Trubisky's backup. I know Tim wants to start with the Jets, but we should probably start with like a real situation that has real fantasy implications. So start with Kirk Cousins. What were you going to say?
Cleveland's, I think the most important one is the Tyrod one, pretty much without question.
I
think
would
he's the
say
most
like one of
significant
the top 5 offenses in the NFL.
All right, so
Signed a quarterback
let's
last
start
year,
with
but okay.
Tyrod then. So Tyrod now inherits the Browns made a ton of moves. They had so much cap space. They were like,
Yeah.
they were like, when you go to college, there's always people on campus who have like given out free credit cards. They're like, hey, 33% interest, but it's free money. And idiots get them. They're like, I'll spend all the money, and they don't buy any like legitimate assets with it. They just waste their money away.
Yeah.
It seems like the Browns are somewhere in between being really good and purchasing really good assets and just throwing their money away. But they got a lot of money to spend, and they spending it.
Yeah, I mean,
they're helping the local economy.
People keep making the comparison between the Browns and the Philadelphia 76ers in terms of like the process and the accumulation of draft picks. And it is kind of similar. Like when Sam Hinkie was fired from the 76ers and Colangelo came in, he just decided to like spend the money and just start trading the draft picks. And it's like, okay, sure, that's definitely a way to go about it. But I mean, the Browns, they did accumulate some offensive talent. I mean, it's undeniable. I would say that this is probably the most optimistic you could be about the Browns in the last decade or so. And Tyrod's a very solid quarterback. My question with Tyrod is, was it the Buffalo Bills' offensive principles that kept him to like 25 attempts per game, or was that just like the NFL realizing that Tyrod Taylor probably shouldn't drop back and throw more than 25 times per game? Because
when your best receiver is Zay Jones and you have an excellent running back in LaShawn McCoy, you don't throw the ball around a whole lot. In Cleveland, I expect to see a significant amount more throwing. Someone like Joku should have a real jump up in tight end.
But don't you feel like Jarvis Landry is just going to steal Joku's route tree?
I think there will be.
You know what? That's gonna be one of the problems with assessing some of the Browns' talent now. That they re-signed Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
But Duke Johnson was like basically playing the slot, and now that's what Jarvis Landry is going to do.
Yeah.
So the touches for Duke Johnson, he's not going to get 80 catches again. And now you got Carlos Hyde in the backfield instead of Isaiah Crowell, but you still have the Duke Johnson influence. Plus Tyrod's going to be running the ball.
Plus, what do they do with their first and fourth pick in the draft as well? You figure another offensive player is going to come in there in some realm.
Potentially. I mean, does this take them out of the Barkley sweepstakes? Probably not.
Yeah, I think
maybe it does.
If they're smart, it does.
You should take him in the top. Like the Giants or the Colts would be really smart to take him. If he's if it's true that Barkley is a generational talent, it's malpractice not to take him as soon as you can get him, because generational talents only come around once every decade or so. But I don't think the Browns are going to take him. I think they'll take a quarterback and a pass rusher. Quarterback we won't see all year, and the pass rusher to put with Jack makes that defensive pass rush so intimidating. I think, initially I was down on the Browns, thinking they might be a 4 or 5 or 6 win team. As it stacks up, considering they're going to have one of the easiest schedules in football, this is a team that could win 9 or 10 games if everything breaks right. I think, and particularly with Tyrod, I think it makes all the difference. You have a competent, quality quarterback there and a ton of mouths to feed. Plus, Josh Gordon is third or fourth best receiver in football when he's healthy and ready to go. So, man, the sky's the limit there.
Don't you feel like some teams, though, might take, it's a copycat league. Every league is. Some teams who have struggled for so long as the Browns have would find like a kinship with someone like Jacksonville and see that the roadmap might just be, and especially for a team that has used a lot of high-end draft picks on defensive players. Their defense was good last season. I think it was unheralded last year. They were put in a lot of bad situations by the Heisman winner. Yeah, the Browns.
Well, they had a really good run defense, but it doesn't matter because most teams don't run all that.
It's fair. I'm just saying
the Bills.
There are reasons to be optimistic that the Browns defense has some pieces. It's obviously not Jacksonville's defense, but I feel like some teams are going to take that roadmap of let's just play good, solid defensive football. Let's possess the football and
have
run
a quarterback that doesn't turn it over.
And now you have that quarterback. You have the guy who's not going to make the stupid decisions. Tyrod is primarily just going to do what Tyrod does. He's going to drop back 20 to 25 times a game. He's not going to make the big mistake. He's going to be solid on third downs. He's got the option of using his legs. They do have weapons, but I do feel like maybe they still draft Barkley, they pair him with Hyde, and they just decide, look, we're going to run the ball 35 times a game. I could definitely see that happening. I don't think this Browns offense is all of a sudden become voluminous in the passing game. So, for me, there's tons of reasons that Jarvis Landry is going to regress this season, but just first and foremost, he's not going to have the volume to lead the NFL in receptions again. And Josh Gordon might benefit from this because he only needs 5 or 6 20-plus yard targets a game to actually be Josh Gordon, and Tyrod does have a great deep ball, but...
Yeah, and we saw Tyrod 2 years ago, because we didn't really see much of it.
Didn't really have
Although Deontay Thompson had some of his moments last year down the field.
Yeah.
But with Sammy Watkins, with Marquise Goodwin, he was able to hit those guys on
he's
spots.
got an arm.
And where he's able to buy so much time in the backfield by running around in circles, that it's like the old Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin. It's like, how the hell is Doug Baldwin just wide open 45 yards downfield with no one around him?
Yeah, you can lose a guy in 7 seconds.
Yeah, Russell Wilson ran around for 10 seconds and someone lost track of him. Tyrod's able to do that kind of thing. I don't know if they'll be able to lose Josh Gordon, but Corey Coleman might be able to sneak down the field a little bit.
I think people are kind of forgetting about Corey Coleman at this point. He's still their number 2 wide receiver. And I don't know, are we confident Josh Gordon's suiting up for 16 games in an NFL season? Can we get to that point?
I guess so.
I know where you have him in your rankings.
He's coming back. I have him ranked as if he's going to do that. Let's get to the quarterback rankings, though, 11 to 20, because that's where Tyrod ends up coming in. I have him at number 11 in the quarterback rankings. He is going to be followed by Matthew Stafford at 12, Roethlisberger, Pat Mahomes, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston, and Derek Carr. I put Alex Smith at 21 if anyone really wants to know. Trubisky could make a leap. It's really hard to judge right now because all the pieces aren't in place. We don't know who's been drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Bradford's probably like 22, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is Fitz said if he's coming back yet? He's coming back,
Fitz is
right?
coming back.
Okay, he's coming back. So, sure. He's got weapons, I guess.
Hey, listen,
David Johnson's
if
healthy,
Sam
too.
Bradford can stay healthy for 16 games, Fitz is going to eat.
Yeah. No, and look, I would say that I might have Stafford above Taylor just because I know the volume's going to be there for Stafford. It wouldn't shock me if Matthew Stafford had 150 more dropbacks than Tyrod Taylor this season. He might just volume his way ahead of him. I know that Tyrod does have the added element of his legs, which is important.
For me, that ranking has more to do with, let's say Tyrod starts throwing 33 times a game instead of 25.
There is
and there
the
is that
upside there,
the upside with Tyrod. I mean,
Matthew Stafford's not all of a sudden going to run for 500 yards. I understand that. There's room for growth with Tyrod Taylor. I'm surprised with the Mahomes-Goff thing. I know everyone's real high on Patrick Mahomes, and I understand the ceiling on that guy, but, I mean, Goff's got... Is it a weapons concern with Goff at this point, or are you concerned that the receiving core is just not there?
I'm concerned. I'm not necessarily concerned with Jared Goff. I mean, I do like the upside of Patrick Mahomes a little bit more. I like his weapons a lot more. I mean, Gurley notwithstanding, and is Gurley really going to repeat what he did through the passing game? Maybe. We'll see.
It seemed like it was a fundamental element of their
Sure,
offense.
it was, but teams also now have a year to catch up to what the Rams are up to on offense.
Yes.
Where they've now built their defense to be pretty damn good. They went out and made some significant moves, especially in the secondary, acquiring Talib, acquiring Marcus Peters, that they might just run the ball a lot.
Possible. It is hard to ignore some of the stats they put up last season. They're like Cooper Kupp led all wide receivers in red zone targets. Like, that's
And it didn't translate.
Really.
And when we get to the wide receiver ranking, spoiler alert, with Sammy Watkins gone and not drawing the number one coverage anymore, and now that moves to Robert Woods, I have Cooper Kupp ranked ahead of Robert Woods.
Yeah, I think that's a very rational way to look at it.
Watch out, Josh Reynolds!
In neutral situations in terms of score and down and distance, the Rams had the quickest offense in football last season. The Rams were top 5 in like red zone scoring opportunities last season. I just feel like Goff's in a really good spot.
I have 6 more months to change my mind on Jared Goff.
Sure.
But the way that I see it with Mahomes right now is he's taking over this offense. It's not like he can't run. He can run. Yeah. And he just has, like, Watkins is fine. And I don't want to let Tim know because Tim's going to get all crazy about Sammy Watkins because he always does. But please, if I start coming around on Sammy Watkins as like a legit talent this year for fantasy, please talk me out of it.
I will 100% do that.
But he has Travis Kelce, he has Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt out of the backfield. They still have the Candyman, Charkandrick West, to catch some passes as well. I just feel like the upside vertically with that offense. And then you have Sammy Watkins. He's going to have 3 huge games.
Where do you think we are this season in terms of the safety net of if you have this guy, you don't have to stream on a week-to-week basis sort of thing? It seems like
all right, well, let's go to
quarterback's kind of deep. Like, I know that sounds really simplistic to say, but...
So at the top, the quarterback ranking is 1 to 10. It's Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Watson, Wilson, Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. You can kind of go to Garoppolo.
Well, I feel
Cousins?
like if you draft Garoppolo and ever drop him to pick up another quarterback, you're not getting Jimmy Garoppolo back. And I like where he is in your rankings. Cousins, I understand there's the backlash right now because Kirk Cousins is making $86 million guaranteed dollars in the NFL the next 3 seasons, but you look at that guy and what he had to deal with in Washington. Like, let's just start running down. Again, he threw for 4,000 yards last season. He was the most sacked by lost yardage quarterback. Washington ran out like JV league offensive linemen for half their games last season.
And their best receivers were either bad or hurt.
Yeah. At the end of the year, his best receiver was his running back, and his running back wasn't there for the last 3 weeks of the season. I believe they didn't have a single receiver with over 800 yards receiving.
Oh, poor
11 different guys had to catch a touchdown. Like, I feel like you're going to a team now with 3 legitimate weapons in the receiving game, and Dalvin Cook is also great out of the backfield if he's, recovered fully.
Listen,
I really like that system in Minnesota.
So do I. I think the big thing to look at in terms of what Case Keenum was able to do in that offense versus what Kirk Cousins is going to be able to do, 10.8 yards per attempt for Case Keenum. Even last year with Kirk Cousins, and he was still 6th in fantasy points per game in Washington. Yeah. Now, he did rush for 4 touchdowns, so that helped a lot. Probably won't happen again in Minnesota. He was still up at 11.8 yards per attempt. So he should actually help. Thielen every week was your go-to consistency player. And that's probably not going to change, but I think this makes Diggs more consistent. It'll allow him to get down the field a little bit more. Kyle Rudolph will inherently become more consistent, so he's not just going to have 8 big weeks and 8 terrible weeks. We saw with Vernon Davis was able to have a modicum of consistency. So was Jordan Reed.
Some guy named Sprinkle cut a touchdown for him last season.
The Sprinkler.
I mean, again, I just look at that team, and I guess you have to ask yourself the question, same as Tyrod Taylor, like how much of the system was about the quarterback and how much about it was the coach? Because Minnesota was towards the bottom of the league in pass ratio last season. They were down around 50-50. I feel like that probably had something to do with Case Keenum was their quarterback, and they didn't have a trust level. I'm not saying they all of a sudden jumped to like Miami Dolphin, Cleveland Brown territory of having to pass the ball because you're losing by 17 points a game, but if they're up more towards the 58-59% end of the spectrum, that's a huge deal for Kirk Cousins with those weapons. And again, that was a great offense last season. A lot of it might have been short field dependent, but again, another team inside the top 5 in terms of red zone attempts per game. This seems like a great spot. Maybe in a real life perspective, I can understand some of the worry about giving that much money to Kirk Cousins, but from a fantasy perspective, I love it.
So let's have Tim weigh in on Kirk Cousins, because we did a bunch of shows on Radio Row because we had to fill like 8 straight hours. And Tim was telling me that Kirk Cousins might be a top 5 quarterback in the league, but that was when he was going to sign with the Jets.
Yeah.
But then he didn't sign with the Jets. So Tim, what do you make of Kirk Cousins?
I was mistaken. That was what was wrong. I mean, listen, I think look at your top 10. Cousins and Mariota don't deserve to be anywhere near that top 10.
Can you please say that again?
How he says that.
In particular, you have Matt Ryan and
Mariota. Did you eat a hot tamale before you said that?
I will take Matt Ryan over either Marcus or Kirk any day of the week. He's got better players, better receivers, better spot, better system. I'll take Matt Ryan.
He does not have a better system. I think we proved that out last year.
Well,
a better system.
It was basically just
He's
kind of like the Chris Davis.
Steve Sarkisian was just like, I got plays. I got 15. Let's run these. Now I'm going to go and go glug, 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 glug. I don't know what I'm doing.
In terms of drive efficiency, drive success rate, they were inside the top 5. Red zone attempts per game. Like, they just didn't score the touchdowns. And it went from,
and I think
in 2016, they scored all the touchdowns, and then they scored none of the touchdowns. It's somewhere in the middle.
Likely to be a much better success rate out of them this year than last year. Rivers, I really like what the Bolts have set up there. I think I would prefer him. I mean, listen, I'm a big believer in Tyrod, but I would take Roethlisberger over him right now for sure. I mean, I really like Goff. I would take Ryan or Rivers ahead of them. I don't really care for the middle side of your rankings. There is no world on earth I would take Watson over Wilson. I think Wilson is so much better and isn't coming off a devastating knee injury. I think it would be an absolute fool's errand to pick Watson over Wilson right now. I think Garoppolo as well, healthy, 100%. And the Niners are trying to build talent around him against Wentz, how many games is Wentz going to play this year? 9, 10, 11? You can't rank him ahead of Garoppolo.
I can. I just did.
Because we have to assume he's not playing the full season. And if he isn't, I mean, I'm sorry. Let's say he misses 5 games. He's undraftable to me at that point. You know, Tom Brady was barely draftable in people's expert opinions couple of years ago when he missed 4 games. I don't think,
and that turned out to be completely wrong since he was the highest scoring quarterback.
And again, at this point, you can
but he wasn't coming off an injury.
But you can take Phillip Rivers and start him for the first 5 games, and if your theory on Phillip Rivers is correct, then basically the net loss is very minimal, and then you get Carson Wentz the last 11 games of the season,
who might not be as good as Phillip Rivers, all things considered.
I mean, he was only definitely going to win the MVP until he tore his ACL.
I still don't believe he was going to, but he was certainly in the competition for it. Listen, I am more conservative than you guys in the sense that I take these sort of devastating injuries a little bit more seriously than you do.
Tim, when he plays fantasy, is very concerned about coming in 7th every year.
Well, he likes that little Yahoo ranking thing that tells you what your overall record for all time is.
Yeah, Tim loves having, like, when Yahoo or ESPN grades his draft, he loves having a B-. He's just like, oh, that's a real solid team.
I like not taking guys off of devastating knee injuries. That's my position. You can be different. That's fine with me.
Well,
I don't care.
As we talk about all the time, I mean, the rankings are one thing, but to actually go into a draft and say, okay, how much is the general public devaluing Carson Wentz because they're afraid of this injury? And if Carson Wentz is going in the 10th round, I don't need to take a quarterback early. I'll just take Carson Wentz then, and I'll take the guy who's going to start the first 4 weeks in the 12th round, and I'll be hunky-dory.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was well said that the draft for quarterbacks does appear to be very deep. So, like I said, when you have Matt Ryan at 18, I would be delighted to have Matt Ryan as my quarterback, meaning that I could take receivers and running backs all over the place and be stuck with the guy who is 1 year removed from being the NFL MVP and having one of the best seasons in NFL history and still having most of his pieces. Like, that wouldn't bother me in the least.
He did have the quarterback version of a Frank Gore season last year, though. Like, when you always look at the stats and go, oh, Frank Gore was actually a top 24 running back. It's like, yeah, over the course of 17 games, which he played in all of, he was a top 24 running back. Matt Ryan, sure, by the end of the season was like, oh, these stats aren't terrible. It's like, yeah, because he got exactly 2 touchdowns every single game and threw for 262 yards every single game. He was a top 10 quarterback, like, what, 3 times last year? And that was only because other quarterbacks had down weeks all combined. Like, as someone who owned Matt Ryan in our home dynasty league, I was very disappointed with the returns. Again, I think that the touchdown expectancy will rebound a bit this season. Like, it went insane in terms of regression from where it was in 2016, but I'm not, like, excited to own Matt Ryan. I think, again, Matt Ryan's
rather
like...
him than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a talentless, overrated quarterback who chose not to win and chose less money by going to Minnesota.
What do you mean?
Can't win that team made the NFC Championship game.
You can't win with Minnesota. You're going to win with the Jets, though. That was the smart move for winning.
I didn't say you'd win with the Jets, but if you're choosing to be in the same division as Aaron Rodgers, the likelihood of him ever winning a division when Rodgers doesn't get hurt is pretty minimal.
Tim, you picked Minnesota to win the division last year,
I got
knowing Aaron Rodgers was healthy, and the fact that he got hurt helped you with that pick. But now you're completely reversing it? You have and they made their team better?
So I got lucky, realized the error of my ways, and then changed my position. Good, heaven forbid that I learn from a mistake and make a change. Listen, I think Case Keenum is just as good a quarterback. I think him and Denver is very
3 weeks ago, you said that Kirk Cousins was 5 times as good as Case Keenum.
Well, I think if I had said that, and I don't think that I did.
You did.
But if I had...
There's a tweet out there, too, that says, give Cousins all the money, or something along those lines.
Well, because the Jets have so much money, they could set it on fire. Listen, Cousins is a better option than what they were going to get for the Jets, but do I think Kirk Cousins is the next... No, I don't. And I'm troubled by the fact that he's gone to a system where now there's zero margin for error on a team where there's no margin for error because you've got a really great Green Bay team with the best quarterback in football on the other side. And all it's going to take is a couple of games losing where the Minnesota fans are going to turn on Kirk. And, Washington's fans turned on him, and he didn't handle the pressure all that well in the nation's capital. So I'm sorry. I just don't believe in him that much. And I don't want, I don't want anything to do with him. He doesn't want to be a Jet. That's fine. I wish him the best of luck.
All right. So what about former Minnesota quarterback, now the Jets quarterback, who's the backup because they re-signed Josh McCown. Yeah. But Teddy Roosevelt, Tim, you got him.
Yeah, I think he could be very interesting if he is in fact able to move around. If his injury,
if he's not immobile,
yeah, if he's not in a wheelchair, then he's going to be just excellent.
Able to move around. I think that he can be a coup for the Jets, and that he's a young quarterback that. We have a brand new offensive staff that can sort of build the offense around his skill set. We have McCown as a fallback in case Bridgewater either doesn't look good enough in camp or loses the job. It's going to be an open competition between him and McCown.
I've already read that they've told Josh McCown that he's going to be the starter.
2 years ago, it'll be an open competition. 2 years ago, Minnesota thought so highly of Bridgewater and their potential in the Super Bowl with him that when he got hurt, they traded a first and a fourth to Philadelphia for Bradford, and that they felt Bridgewater had them to the point where they really could win. And I don't see any reason to think against that. I think Bridgewater is limited in some ways, but I think he is an interesting player. I think he has real upside and real talent, and I'm glad to see the Jets purchasing a lottery ticket on a quarterback who could blossom into something. Now, listen, he could fall apart like a bricklet. I understand that, but it's possible that he becomes, a shot in the dark, and I'm willing to take a gamble on him with that. And so I'm glad to see the Jets do that and give the guy an opportunity. I mean, he came back from a massive, terrible, potentially leg-threatening injury. The perseverance and the dedication to the sport is undeniable. A lot of guys may have just hung it up, and Teddy didn't. And so I think that bodes well for a quarterback who wants to do something in the biggest media market in the country.
Okay, so Teddy Bridgewater coming back from a knee injury that took him out for 2 straight seasons.
Yep.
Perseverance.
Yep.
Gonna be really good.
Yep.
Carson Wentz.
You didn't say good, huh?
Generic ACL tear, which people come back from in 9 months now. Undraftable! You've lost your fucking mind.
Well, but actually, if you think about my position, it's wholly logical in that if I think Wentz is going to miss 5 games or 6 games because of his injury, well, that does render him.
I mean, he can miss all the games that he wants. Teddy Bridgewater's starting no games, so that's going to be good.
Well, he played in some game, in at least one game, maybe 2, and I didn't.
He did play in a game last year. He threw a pick. I remember that.
And neither did I say, oh, you should put Bridgewater ahead of Wentz. I didn't say that. So again, you're trying to mischaracterize my position.
No, it's not. You're saying that you really like Teddy Bridgewater, and you seem to have no concerns about the most devastating knee injury we've seen in like 10 years. But Carson Wentz, who is getting routine work done on his knee that players do every single season and continuously come back not only stronger, but faster and quicker than usual each progressive year that we go forward, undraftable. Can't do it.
I at no point stated that I had no concerns about Teddy B. I do. I mean, listen, I've never gone through an injury like that. Very few professional players have and have come back at full strength. So nothing is set in stone. But I say I'm hopeful, but I'm not guaranteed it's going to work out. Listen, Wentz might not come back and be. We might have seen the best Carson Wentz we're ever going to see of him. That's certainly a generic ACL tear is somebody else's ACL tearing, not your own. In that it's actually a very devastating injury, no matter what position you play.
When was the last time an ACL injury besides Teddy, who didn't just blow out his ACL, he blew out every part of his knee?
Yeah.
We're talking about an MCL tear. When was the last guy who came back who wasn't exactly the same?
I don't know, but
Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, he's in my receiver rankings.
That's good. I agree in the sense of real life with Tim. I like that move for the Jets. I like, again, as he said, taking a high upside lottery ticket. I think that's no problem. I feel like Tim hasn't thought about the ramifications of that when the Jets do draft a quarterback with the 6th overall selection, now they'll have 3 quarterbacks on their roster, and unless Hackencuss can figure out how to play tight end, the Jets are probably going to have to cut him. Tim, have you come to terms with that?
I think that the Jets either are not going to take a quarterback at 6 or are trading out. I no longer think they're taking one. So
I don't know if again, I like Bridgewater, and I like the move in general, but
they should take a pass rusher.
No, if that move necessitates them not taking a quarterback, I feel like that signing is terrible.
No, I'm not too bothered by it.
Teddy's the future. You should see Tim is really downplaying how excited he is for Teddy Bridgewater because according to my text,
Teddy and the Jets.
I saw that.
Oh my god,
I saw that. Yeah,
that is A material.
You're the fucking worst.
No, I'm actually the best, and that's why I'm the People's Tribune, and they all love me.
Oh my god.
What else?
How many beat Tim leagues are we gonna put up this year?
You just start beat Tims?
Well, yeah, just hey, 11 random people want to play fantasy football with the People's Tribune?
And then Tim will come in dead last and be like, I let them win to make them feel good about themselves.
To help their self-esteem.
And I have a slightly other controversial take in that I think you have Tom Brady way too high.
Okay, why? Tell me why I shouldn't have Tom Brady so high.
Because he's 41 years old and it's not going to last
41
forever.
years old, and his best receiver missed the whole year last year, and his best...
Is back!
That's
great news. He was great last year.
How are you going to feel when they sign Jordy Nelson?
And his best...
No, Jordy Nelson's washed. You don't want Jordy Nelson.
His tight end...
He looks like an Aryan prince.
Between him and Drew Brees, I'm definitely taking Drew Brees. Between him and Wilson, I'm definitely taking William. Remember, somewhere in Death in the Afternoon, Hemingway says of the Bull that he was dead. He just didn't know it yet. That's essentially Tom Brady. He's dead, but he doesn't know it yet. This is.
I can't believe it's March and you're already going back to this well again.
Can we go find the footage of this happening
every single season?
4 years?
Yeah, every year that we've done this show, you've said that Tom Brady is finished and the Patriots are finished, and I don't like them because they're mean to the Jets.
What about last year when I picked him to be the NFL MVP, and he was at the start of the year?
He was. That's true. He was high on him last year, but then by the middle of the season, he couldn't take it anymore and decided that
he was washed up.
At any point of possibly him being washed up, he was going to be washed up.
Also, Tim really hedged against himself because when we did this show in March, he said that Tom Brady was washed up.
Yeah.
So
I think
Tim does a fun thing where he just takes every position,
But again-
and then only chooses to pick from when he was eventually right on all these positions. Like, oh, see, I was right. Nah, you said everything.
I feel like, though, Tim, again, and this is a conversation we also had last year that had diminishing returns, but in the sense that I think there's a tier of quarterbacks. I think the top 6 Pat has: Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Watson, Wilson, Newton. I'm just going to take the one of those 6 that drops the farthest. I think that's a perfectly fine way to go about it. And if it is Wilson or if it is Newton, great, because those were the 1 and 2 quarterbacks last season in standard fantasy leagues.
DK, do you know what my biggest regret looking at this list right now when I'm thinking about it?
Cam's too low.
Because there is something that I wanted to do. It's just I'm too cowardly to have done it. I was gonna put Deshaun Watson at number 1. Only because I actually had to sit down with Deshaun Watson, and he told me this.
Looking forward to next season, obviously. Do you think you're going to have to run less with your knee, or is it when you're back, and it's going to be full stride ahead?
No, I'm full stride ahead. I'm not going to, worry about it. I'm not going to make sure. I'm going to make sure that I'm not focusing on my knee every time I step on the field. I'm just going to go out there and play and perform like I have before. And I'll continue to, make plays with my feet when I need to and not take any unnecessary hits and make sure that I'm doing everything I can to be able to help this team win.
Knee's fine.
I mean, it was
I don't
succinct.
care. He's played 4 games. He's played.
But Jimmy Garoppolo is a top 3 quarterback in the league, Tim. Thanks. Which logic are we going with on you here?
I'm not saying to put Jimmy G at 1. Aaron Rodgers should be 1. Aaron Rodgers.
You said Jimmy Garoppolo is a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL.
3 or 4,
you said
yeah,
that.
But he's
you
not
said
number 1.
said that what 15 minutes ago?
He is not coming off of a devastating knee injury, and he played several games last year with absolutely nobody with him in San Francisco and played really good football. I'm sorry. Deshaun Watson is by a factor of at least 3 not as good as Aaron Rodgers. And now you've given Aaron Rodgers the best red zone tight end in football. I put it this way. Deshaun Watson will be on none of my teams this year. Much as I like the kid and think if he had stayed healthy, he would have won that division for Houston because top to bottom, they're a much better team than those fraud Jaguars. The fact of the matter is I cannot trust a young quarterback who's played 4 games in his life at the pro level coming off a devastating knee injury. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's the position I'm taking.
You couldn't put him at number 1.
Who was the highest scoring fantasy player
I understand that.
per
You
game
can't put him
last year?
In September? Oh, great.
No.
Who cares?
That was October. He didn't start the year. Well,
He came in after the end of week 1.
that was the middle of week 1.
Yeah, and actually played pretty well against the Jags D.
Wow.
He didn't get sacked 8 times like Tom Savage.
Yeah. It would have been nice if they got Solder. Soldier's not a great tackle, but he's better than what they had last season.
They actually did sign 2 O-linemen. They signed Andre. No, they didn't. They signed Zach Fulton and Sento Kelamit. I don't know who that is, but
Saints guy.
Yeah, Saints guy and KC guy. So they did try to beef up some depth.
At this point, drawing from the Saints offensive line, which was the only line in football last season to be top 5 in both run blocking and pass blocking, good idea. I don't hate that idea.
I just look at Watson and I see a guy that if he's fine, you win.
He's got the weapons. He's got the upside of
He is a fantasy skill set.
Yes.
That
I would
defense,
still say,
not the
though,
best.
even with the projected upside, you just take Aaron Rodgers.
You take Rodgers because he's safer.
But
injuries pending.
Safer almost is like a detriment to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers also could just definitely be the best quarterback in fantasy football because Aaron Rodgers could also just run for 400 yards next season.
I feel like I should move Deshaun up to 2.
Well, you should be ahead of Brady because I don't like Brady at all.
Well, the fact we've now found out that Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady are both anti-Andercurse this season. So that's good news for them.
I mean, Brady's anti-Andercurse every single season.
Yeah.
That's what they're not telling you in Tom versus Time. He's not willing to admit that his success is inherently tied to Tim Anderson always saying he's done.
All the diets, that doesn't mean anything.
No.
All the TB12 doesn't mean anything. It's just being anti-Andercurse.
Yeah.
It's like anti-aging cream. It's just going to make him good till he's 70.
Peyton Manning had the best season a quarterback has ever had in NFL history in 2013, and then he fell off a cliff.
After a degenerative
You've now said that 3 straight years about Tom Brady.
Brett Favre had his greatest career season in 2009 and then fell off a cliff.
He was
Stars
a drunk.
burn brightest before they burn out. It is a objective fact that Brady's
one of these years you're going to be right, but the
Until
argument
it
lost
happens.
all validity until that point.
Yeah, since you make it every single season. And there is a big difference between Peyton, Favre, and Brady as it pertains to age and what they're going through right now. So Peyton Manning
And I think just
did have
level of health.
5 neck surgeries.
Yeah.
And
Then he had his
And
best
Brett Favre-
career year ever.
sure.
post-neck
And
surgery.
then he wasn't able to maintain that level of upkeep to his body. And then
I
we
mean, I
have
guess
Brett
Peyton
Favre
Manning doesn't
drunk
even-
and
Brett Favre's Wrangler lifestyle.
painkillers all the time. The guy did a ton of damage to his body, and he never missed a game. He just took punishment after punishment after punishment. Tom Brady, listen, there's probably now that Thomas Jones has retired, there's probably no one in better shape physically than Tom Brady in the NFL.
No, he is. Yeah, he is the most in shape person ever. Yeah, okay, yeah. No one's ever been more talented or more skilled. Whatever. Let's just move on. It's no point in having this conversation. You guys are just true believers, and I'm not.
I mean, I still hate Tom Brady. I mean, don't, Tim. Oh,
I mean, listen. People are jumping off the Patriot ship left, right, and center. That should tell you something.
that
They
it's
got
a
no
fun
free
thing
agents.
to
They
do.
lost their best defensive back. They lost their best offensive lineman. That team is sinking quickly, and you can either pretend like the ship is not taking on water because, like the Titanic, it can't sink, or it can. And I think it is the Titanic.
So this is really shaping up, Garion, to Tim picking the Dolphins to win the division
I know.
for the 10th consecutive year.
Well, when you spend all your money on slot receivers after getting rid of your slot receiver, you know what's great? In no way am I justifying Jarvis Landry ever making $16 million against the cap. But when you take the $16 million you save by signing 2 receivers to $16 million a season and having them replace him as 2 people, now taking up 2 spots on your 53-man roster, maybe just keep the one who was kind of good. God, that team is idiotic.
I actually think that A.J. McCarron is an excellent selection by the Bills, a playoff team last season, that if they can get 1 or 2 receivers in the draft, why can't the Bills who are a playoff team, who made the playoffs last year, who have a very good quarterback now in McCarron, a guy who knows how to win championships. He won 3, I do believe, in his career at Alabama, and played pretty good in a playoff game against the Steelers that as long as Burfict hadn't gone nuts and speared people in the head, A.J. McCarron would have won a playoff game. Listen, McCarron was quarterback.
Deshaun Watson also has championship caliber.
He's no good, though. He's so arrogant, unlike good A.J. McCarron. I see where you're going with this, Tim.
This was a response as to who would you pick to win the AFC East. I would probably pick Buffalo. That's the smart choice. They're just coming off making the playoffs. They still have a dynamic running back. Now, they have to upgrade at the wide receiver position. But they just got Tulalele, however you pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. He's a very nice run stopper.
I like Chris Ivory.
I really like Chris Ivory as a secondary back to McCoy. McCoy's still an excellent running back.
Not hard to improve
like
on big
the Bills
fat
doing.
Mike Tolbert.
He's probably
I
still on
kind
the
of
team.
like what the Bills are
Probably.
doing. I think they're an interesting team, but they still got to get somebody else on the outside to be a real threat. But I mean, I look at them and I mean that's a team on the rise. You look at the Patriots, and objectively speaking, that's a team on the decline. And that no team is. When's the last time a team lost in the Super Bowl and even made it back to the Super Bowl, let alone won it? It's been a very, very, very long time. Plus, history in all of its ways is pointing squarely against the Patriots, whether it be Brady's age, whether it be what happens when a team has a coach in waiting and they're about to switch head coaches, what happens when you've lost a Super Bowl. You have all your work ahead of you trying to make a logical, consistent argument that the Patriots are dominating favorites just in their division, let alone in the American Football Conference.
I mean, when I see the division odds,
history dictates that the Bills are going to win the division, Gary, and that's what I just heard.
I'll say this. When I see the
And
division
now poor
odds,
Bills fan Paul behind the camera is like crying after just hearing that spiel. A.J. McCarron, give your fucking head a shit.
let's just say hypothetically the Patriots, like they always are, minus 800, minus 900 to win the AFC East, and Buffalo's paying like plus 750. That's not a terrible bet to make considering the circumstances. I do think Buffalo's a good team, but to say with no odds on the table that Buffalo is the favorite is ludicrous.
I didn't say they're the favorite, but that's who I would probably pick. I wish this was Twitter right now because I would tweet that GIF of Jack Nicholson shaking his head at you, Gary, because that's you're coming aboard to my side, and I like that.
Oh, the
A.J. McCarron's fine as a cheap quarterback to fill in, and they're obviously going to draft someone, and he might get replaced midseason.
Nothing is obvious. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Not high. I mean, maybe they'll draft somebody low, but nothing I think it's set in
I mean,
stone. I wouldn't-
They've moved up in
they've
the
already
draft to
traded
clearly
up.
take a quarterback. Yeah.
to get to 12. That doesn't mean they're going to then move up again. I hope they take Lamar Jackson. I think he's a very interesting QB.
Oh,
He's
Bills
a guy-
fans will love that. They love Tyrod so much. They'll love Lamar Jackson.
I think he could be like the queen on the chessboard, that he doesn't even have to play quarterback the whole time to be on the field.
That is so ludicrous. Lamar Jackson should actually be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He might be.
What is
He
he,
might be like
Marshall
Slash.
fucking Falk? What are you talking
He
about?
reminds me of Slash, that maybe not quite as good of an arm.
Everyone wants a Cordell Stewart comparison.
Yeah. Bills, Super Bowl.
Well, Cordell Stewart was actually a very, very good
I
quarterback.
like Cordell Stewart. I had a lot of fun watching him. I'm just saying, I don't think anyone drafting Lamar Jackson is hoping for the upside of Cordell Stewart.
You could do a lot worse.
You could, and the Bills have for a very long
You
time.
could be Teddy Bridgewater.
AFC East champion designate Buffalo Bills.
All I know is if the Bills take Lamar Jackson, now Ryan Tannehill's not even the best, actually should be playing wide receiver quarterback in his own division.
He's coming back off a devastating knee injury, Tim, but you love Miami again.
What have I said that I love? What
Well,
words have I said?
You had
you-
Tannehill
you-
inside the
you-
top 15 of your quarterback rankings not but a month
Just
ago.
raw talent. I wouldn't have him in the top 15 in fantasy this season.
You
By
also
the way.
just said you loved Albert Wilson.
Ugh, God damn.
I think Albert Wilson's a very interesting player that will get a lot of
No
attention. and a lot
Chief
of
is
money.
interesting except for Travis Kelce. Well, I guess Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes now. Actually, that team is kind of
And
interesting
Tyreek-
now.
And Kareem
Here's
Hunt.
my position.
Now Alex
I
Smith is
think
gone. The interest level
Okay,
has gone
one
up.
second. Let's finish off with quarterbacks then.
Wilson will be next. This year's Robert Woods. That's my view.
Oh, great. So AJ McCarron, we got to Alex Smith traded to Washington.
I like Alex Smith. He's a very competent quarterback.
He lacks the weapons he once did.
He lacks the weapons he does. I mean, listen, do they still have Pryor, who was like the most overrated, nonsensical player in the history of fantasy football last year? Like, I guess he might be okay with him. He has an excellent tight end, but again, his tight end can't
Wait,
play.
what are you talking about? Pryor got cut.
Did he get cut? There he goes. That's why I said, does he have him? I have no idea.
No, but now he has Paul Rich, P. Rich.
I actually don't mind
P. Rich coming in hot.
Yeah, well, Pat and I like P. Rich more than the average person does. I think he's okay. I mean,
Loves
they
a
love him-
one-handed catch.
He's the new Brendan Lloyd, by the way.
That's actually a really good comparison.
every catch you see, people remember Paul Richardson as being really good because every time he makes a catch, it's a highlight reel catch.
I just think that Smith is a streamer, which is fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we've seen his best work.
Okay, so the other one, Sam Bradford, signs with Arizona. Like I mentioned, I don't really love
This to me is interesting.
Sam
This is either
Bradford.
boom or
I
bust.
don't think it's boom because Sam Bradford.
if he stays healthy all year-
Sam Bradford set the completion record in Minnesota 2 years ago. Was 33rd in QB ADOT. He wasn't a good fantasy player.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he's,
but if you give him a full
Yeah,
season-
but he's good. Okay.
No. If one were to grant him 16 games of health, which is almost certain not to happen, with David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald, that to me is a very interesting quarterback. But because one cannot grant him that health,
Are you walking outside to have a cig?
I am not.
What's that sound then?
I don't know. I think it's probably on your end. I have.
Oh yeah, it's on my end. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, everything's got to be my fault. Sure, yeah. Who threw a cane at the TV? Who fell into the China hutch? It's always my fault.
Paul says you're definitely having a cig, and I can hear you smoking.
I'm not having a sip.
I think Bradford is a really interesting two quarterback league debate though because he
Sure,
does
a
have,
two-quarterback-
he does
we're not
have
talking-
upside. I'm just saying
It's March.
I know what I'm just saying. In a two-quarterback league where it's he's got the upside to definitely be a top 15-ish type quarterback and he's got the weapons to do it. He's also someone who, in a two-quarterback league, having your quarterback play 16 games, be available to play 16 games is of the utmost importance. Not exactly Sam Bradford's cup of tea. So
No, I agree.
And then you have to handcuff him with Mike Glennon, secret bald Mike Glennon.
not so secret anymore. He's
Oh,
rich
it's not so
now,
secret
yeah.
anymore. Okay, so here's
He's had the notoriety of being the Chicago Bears starting quarterback.
When we get to the wide receiver rankings, you'll see that I actually have Larry Fitzgerald. I wouldn't say super high, but I just think he's had over 100 receptions in each of the past 3 seasons.
He was, I believe he was number 5 last season.
He had 109 receptions last season with Sam Bradford at quarterback and the types of routes that Sam Bradford likes to throw.
Match made in heaven.
Them's are Larry Fitzgerald routes. They're also David Johnson routes as
Again,
well. But he
point.
falls into the same situation that Case Keenum now falls into in Denver, that Derek Carr falls into in Oakland. He only has 2 weapons. And that those weapons can independently be good fantasy
What about
players.
Ricky Seals-Jones?
Ricky Jake Sealy Jones?
Yeah, the very same.
But when you have two legitimate options, and that's where all the market share goes, and that's what's going to happen in Arizona, that's what's going to happen in Denver, that's what's going to happen in Oakland, the receivers, or the two getting all the ton of the market share, are good independent fantasy players. The quarterback doesn't really come along for the ride.
Right. And again, that's why he's really only a
I'd rather have
league
Mitch
discussion.
Trubisky than Sam Bradford, and just roll the dice on that upside.
I don't know that I agree with that. Although I think it's closer than one might imagine.
He has weapons. He can run.
Does he have weapons, plural? He's got weapon.
Do you know who he has?
A-Rob?
Sledgehammer.
Does have Sledgehammer now?
And Cam Meredith's coming back off a devastating knee injury. He'll never be good again.
As is Allen Robinson.
And he's got a great running back who can catch the ball, too, in Tarek Cohen.
I was going to say, because one of their running backs cannot catch the ball.
Yeah.
Poor Jordan Howard.
He has Tim Andercast hands.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I have great hands.
Trey
I'm not like
Burton's kinda
George
fun, though.
Michael in Arrested
You are. You know
Development.
what? You actually are like George Michael in Arrested Development. He just turns from everything. Ow. So yeah, Alex Smith. Yeah, Alex Smith is just so meh.
Yeah.
I feel like Jamison Crowder might be all right.
Yeah. Jamison Crowder's probably going to love
He
life.
did last year.
Yeah, but
Well, for the last 8 weeks of the season, he was fine. He was MIA for the first 8 weeks.
All right, let's get to running backs. I'll go through the running back ranks. Number 1, hate doing it. You got Todd Gurley.
Kind of have to, though.
Yeah, with the ability to receive out of the backfield on the levels of Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, that vaults him up into that conversation and puts him at number 1 for me. I think there's a distinct tier of the top 3, Gurley, Bell, and DJ, and then you can start putting people in different order. I go Zeke at number 4, Elvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, LaShawn McCoy, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and Leo Fournette. If we keep rolling down the 11 to 20, I got Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, Devonta Freeman, Gentleman Joe Mixon, Rex Burkhead, Jerick McKinnon, now in San Francisco, Carlos Hyde, Gian Lewis, now in Tennessee, Jordan Howard, and Derrick Henry. I didn't like the back end. Basically anything after 11 is really tough because I think the Dolphins are either going to draft or sign someone. I think
They have to bring
I think the
someone
49ers are going to go out and get someone else to not have Jerick. Obviously Barkley's not in this mix yet, so it's more of a top 10 ranking than anything because those guys seem very solidified in their spots. Where
One would imagine Barkley will jump into your top 10 though.
I think it depends
depends
on
on
where he
spot,
goes.
right?
Unless he's drafted to a team that also has a great back. Let's say the Giants took him at 2 or the Colts took him at 3.
Tim, you love old players. When we go through who got signed, Jonathan Stewart signed.
Christ.
Your favorite player, Jonathan Stewart, signed with the Giants, Tim. They're going to move Barkley to the bench and just play Jay Stu.
I do like Jay Stu as a player and always have. But let's say the Giants or the Colts take him. You'd have him in your top 10.
In the Colts, I mean, I would consider putting him inside my top 5 if he went to the Colts. Like,
Yeah,
he
I
might
mean,
be
I
he might be a
I-
better fantasy player than Zeke if he goes to the Colts.
I have to say I mostly agree with your running back ranks.
Well,
with
now
the
they're cursed.
exception-
Thanks.
With the exception that I think Hunt is better than Kamara and would take Hunt ahead of him.
Well, here's the thing with Kamara. I actually want to have a Kamara discussion because
Yeah.
I think that he is the most important player as it pertains to running backs right now. I've seen him as high as 1 on a lot of people's boards, and I think 5 is about as low as you're going to find. And they're running everything back in New Orleans, at least from an offensive perspective. So Breeze is back, that awful Mark Ingram is back, Kamara's back, Michael Thomas, and like the offensive line is basically 80% still in place.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine. The thing with Kamara is the efficiency has to be an outlier because it was such an efficient season.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
does he take the leap in year 2 where we just see less Mark Ingram and more Kamara? Because we know that if they're going to continue to pass and pass and pass and pass, that's going to spell more for Elvin Kamara.
But they didn't pass and pass and pass and pass last season.
I understand
And
that.
I think,
but
why would they change
did
that
the Saints
philosophy?
overachieve on defense last year?
Yes.
Possible. Possible. I do think, though, that, again, this pertains more to a real-life football conversation than a fantasy conversation in the sense that if you have Kamara and you have Ingram, I don't see why you wouldn't essentially just split the carries down the middle. I mean, I know
Because
that...
Mark Ingram is terrible.
Agreed.
Fair.
If people are new to the show, by the way, I do rank Mark Ingram, except he's in worst place. He's the devil. Don't ever take Mark Ingram. He's hexed. Don't take
And then
him.
he stood you up on Radio Row.
Yeah, he did stand me up on Radio Row.
Did he know?
But, yeah.
Your disdain for him?
No.
Yeah, there's a video clip of him saying that to you.
Yeah, well, there's a video clip of him calling me not to be a hater.
Oh, I did see that one. Yeah.
I mean, here's the clip of Mark Ingram telling me not to be such a hater.
Why these man, don't be like all these other people hating, putting me down in your mid rankings. because you know it's not real. You know I'm the truth, baby.
Fucking Mark Ingram. Where would you rank Ingram on this list? Because I usually get a guest ranker to rank Ingram. People are all
I'm assuming full point PPR?
Yeah, full point PPR. All these rankings
Probably
are PPR.
right after Melvin Gordon at 12.
You put him at 12?
Oh, for good Lord's sake. No. Like, I really think Derrick Henry's going to be special this year.
They
But
just
I
signed Dion Lewis.
I don't care.
I
don't think.
Why don't you care? Dion Lewis is now a top 10 running back in terms of millions of dollars per season. I don't think you could just sign that guy to sit him on the bench.
He's
also quite good.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be seated on the bench, but I think this gives now every single red zone touch to Henry, and I think that's important. With a quarterback like Mariota, who I don't think is going to run as much as people think this year.
It's like
that he's
moist.
gonna be, what?
It's like someone saying moist. I can't stand it when you say Mariota.
Okay, well, now you realize that.
You're like the guy who goes to Japan for 2 weeks and come back and says everything authentically.
Yeah, and says namaste at the end of everything. That sounds very. I mean, Tim lives his own truth, so
I most certainly
he
do not.
is the most woke of us all.
he is. He's also the most triggered. That's why he's the biggest snowflake on
triggered.
Earth.
Well, that's
You're
how you get
triggered
woke.
right now.
When you're triggered, that propels you to get woke.
Okay, so let's go through the actual signings at running back. So Dion Lewis.
I also like Chris Thompson better than you have him, but anyway.
Chris Thompson coming off a devastating knee injury. How could you draft him?
He should also like Alex Smith, though.
Yes.
He's in the top 20, so I expect him to be. I would have him in my top 20, maybe ahead of, I don't know, maybe ahead of Howard.
Howard's tough, because at the end of the day, he's still going to get 300 carries.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, volume has to matter.
You know who he might end up becoming? New Frank Gore.
I was going to say. It scares
Well,
me.
nothing wrong with that. That means Hall of Fame running back caliber.
To be fair,
He just needs to play another 17 years.
But if he takes the Frank Gore trajectory, at least Frank Gore was a viable fantasy running back for the first 7 years of his career, and he's still in that point of his career.
He had heydays in San Francisco.
I'm already reconciling with the fact I'm going to have to keep Jordan Howard in the keepers league this year because
I would throw him back.
That's like
I think Garion's going to have a very good keeper team this year.
I do have Jimmy. He's only saying that because I picked up Jimmy.
Trade Jordan Howard to Tim, then he can start Cohen and Howard. Super backfield.
I did that in one of my leagues last year, but I want Jimmy, but I can't have him because apparently Garion's just got all the best quarterbacks. So unless Garion trades,
You have Matt Ryan too, don't you?
I do have Matt Ryan too.
Such a good team.
Such a good team. We're turning this into a super flex league, right?
Yeah. You can just play 3 quarterbacks now
Great.
if you want to. Okay, so Dion Lewis signs with the Titans. You said he's now top 10 in terms of actual dollars being paid to running backs. I think he makes like $5 million.
4.5 million.
That's top 10 for running backs.
Love
That's
it.
insane. I originally, when I did these I did a prelim rank before Lewis had signed. I had Derrick Henry at number 9 in the rankings, assuming he would get 20 plus touches a game.
That's fair.
I just don't see that happening. We're now going to get into a situation almost exactly like last year. And while I'm kind of with Tim in a way, that I do think that Derrick Henry, I don't think he's going to monopolize the goal line touches because you still have to compete with Mariota.
Fair, but if you look,
He's going to do some running as well.
Mariota does love a good self-touchdown pass.
Throw it to
that's
yourself,
their top
Brad Johnson
play.
style.
Yeah.
But also, it's not like Dion Lewis isn't going to be on the field. He's not going to play 0% of the red zone
But
snaps.
if you want to take it,
Henry is the symbol of that backfield. He will monopolize it.
If you want to take the optimistic viewpoint of a situation last year that could mirror this season's Tennessee situation, I would say you look at the way Minnesota utilized their 2 running backs last season, which is he would then take over the Latavius Murray role of the offense. And Latavius Murray, by the end of the season, I think we'd all caught on, but this is a guy who quietly was still getting 17.5 carries per game, and by the end of the year was behind only Gurley and Bell in red zone carries. So I think Henry could be on that end of the spectrum, but I also think that
I would say a more realistic scenario that we're looking at is the Derrick Henry that we've seen over the past 2 years, that sometimes he's going to get a lot of carries. Other times, not so many carries. And then week to week, he's just going to kill you. 1 week, he's going to be a very viable, low-end running back 1. The next week, he's going to be running back 78.
Well, that creates an interesting situation on the other side of it. Do you trust Dion Lewis more this season as a member of the Titans than you did as a member of the Patriots?
Yes. I have Dion Lewis ranked ahead mainly because I do PPR rankings.
Yes, and he will be the PPR.
And I think that a lot like Jerick McKinnon with whoever, Jerick is ranked at number 16 right now solely because there's no one else to steal his carries at the moment. But even when someone else comes in,
he'll be the higher of the two.
He's going to be the higher of the two. Even if it's a 55% split for him, all the catches will presumably go to Jerick McKinnon, most of the catches. Although Derrick Henry's a fine receiver. I'm not taking that away from him.
He just doesn't get the opportunity.
It's just with Dion Lewis there, throw it to Dion Lewis.
And
It's like pass it to Will.
it was a great strategy. I think the difference between those two situations too, and it can't really be overlooked, is just how quickly San Francisco runs their offense versus Tennessee, who really just slogged their way down the field last season. Now you
want a piece of every single 49er this year. That is such a special team.
Tim's going to end up drafting Jerzerk.
There's,
I think it's J-Chuck.
Honestly, there is no
sure.
offensive player on the 49ers I'd be upset about.
Oh my God. Do you know what this is all setting up for? Tim is going to do his draft, and he's going to draft all these 49ers. Then he's going to rename his team Kittle Me Timbers! Breaking out the snorts in March. Not bad.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
He was pretty tied to drafting Teddy and calling himself Teddy and the Jets and thinking he was the
Yeah.
most clever person on earth.
I was going to Microsoft Paint Teddy's face on Elton
Tim
John.
can't use Microsoft. What?
Microsoft Paint? He probably
He
can.
cannot use Microsoft Paint.
I cannot.
Oh.
He couldn't
have
figure,
Gurley at one-
He couldn't figure out how to use, like how to take a screenshot on his iPhone for over 3 years.
Oh, no,
And Googling it never occurred to him. Because he's just he's out running in the tulips, and he's running around in circles being like, hee 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 hee, Kittle Me Timbers!
I didn't see the screenshot stuff in the instruction book.
Wah.
Sad. Wah.
Please stop.
In the instruction manual to the iPhone. Give your fucking head a shake. Google doesn't work for you?
I like to read the instruction books of the things I get.
That seems right up.
Tim's alley?
Like,
Yeah.
if I get a new video game, the first thing I do is look through the book.
When I get a new video game, read the instruction manual.
Yeah, that way I know what I'm doing. That's why I was so much better at GoldenEye than you.
X is for
I'd read
jump.
all the.
Have you ever actually even played GoldenEye? I feel like you didn't even have a 64.
I played GoldenEye a lot and was actually very good at it.
Tim told me he was awesome at Madden and once lost by over 70 points to me the first time we played.
I've heard that.
Yeah, that was a glitch.
He played it on.
That was a glitch.
He played it on easy the entire time. It was like, I'm really good at Madden.
That's
he,
not-
He,
that's-
he also enjoys things like punting and kicking field goals in Madden.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't care. I like to play
It said in the
football like
instruction
this.
manual. That's how you win.
Well, yeah, it mentioned in the instruction manual that you might want to punt on 4th downs.
Yeah.
That sounds correct.
Terrible idea.
Yeah.
What the hell were we talking about? Jarek?
Running backs, Jarek.
I was going to ask you if you have Gurley at 1 in your running back ranks, would you have number 1 overall in your draft ranks?
No, I think number 1 and 2 overall for me will be Antonio Brown and DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. I don't know that I agree, but that's reasonable. I don't think I would take Hopkins ahead of Johnson, ahead of Bell, or ahead of.
I think it's really.
I would take Brown ahead of.
I think that's. I think that DeAndre Hopkins is really close to Antonio Brown in terms of fantasy production.
Yeah.
If Watson starts week 1 and he's healthy, which he told me he was, so why would he lie to me? But just look what he was doing with Watson. He was getting 15 targets a game. It was ridiculous.
No, he's.
Yeah.
I mean, any quarterback he's ever had, the target shares have been there.
Yeah,
You give him the best quarterback he's
you
ever
give
had.
him a competent quarterback,
Yeah.
and he's through the roof.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Fuck, you give him
done
Brian.
betting
You give him Brian Hoyer, and he's the second best fantasy wide receiver.
Wait, what? You're
I'm
down on
just
Le'Veon Bell again?
I downed David Johnson forever. Now I'm a believer. I downed.
How did that work out for David Johnson the moment you became a believer?
That's irrelevant. I'm now a Le'Veon Bell 100% believer. But, man, I think I'd have him at 1 in running backs. I really would. I understand.
I mean, there's a
Gurley.
case to be
I'm not gonna-
made.
Listen,
I'm not going to argue with it. It's just personal preference. I think I would go Bell, Gurley. But anyway.
I was thinking that the only hesitation that I have about David Johnson is with these three guys being so close. I think that you have to start nitpicking a little bit.
And he's in the worst offense of the 3.
He's in the worst offense of the 3, and he's coming off the injury.
Yeah.
It never counts.
in terms
because
of
everyone comes back 100% like Stretch Armstrong after injuries.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're gonna nitpick all these guys, I mean, Le'Veon Bell did. He was fine.
He was.
Remember? So that's the one concern, and then the worse offense concerns me. Although the nitpick with Le'Veon Bell is the amount of touchdowns that he's going to end up getting. David Johnson will probably see a higher volume of touches inside the 5-yard line than Le'Veon Bell does, because that's just not what Pittsburgh does.
Yeah, they don't often get inside the 10.
And the case for both of them over Gurley is that I can project their target total to be probably higher than Todd Gurley's, but if he's closed that gap so much that it's sort of irrelevant, I'll take the fact that I know that when the Rams get inside the 10-yard line, it's 3 straight Gurley runs.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you look at it's almost crazy when you look at carries inside the 5-yard line from last season. Gurley is ahead of the pack by far, and Latavius Murray is up there as well, and all the guys you would expect to see. Le'Veon Bell, to his credit, scored on every single carry he was given inside the 5-yard line.
Very sustainable.
But only got 6 carries. Like, Todd Gurley got 17, I think it was. That's a massive discrepancy in terms of touchdown expectancy. So I can't disagree with this. And you look at the numbers, there's, again, nothing to suggest that the Rams can't once again have a better offense than the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's weird to say because nothing Le'Veon did last season would predicate, generally speaking, in a vacuum that he should be moved down the rankings. But if Todd Gurley's going to be that involved in the passing game, you kind of have to have him at number 1.
I think it's one of these situations where if you're picking in a draft, and obviously this can change on a dime, we'll see.
Yeah.
But if you have picks 1 through 5 in the draft, I think you're good.
Yeah, I think you're set.
I think the top 5 is pretty separated from the rest. And I guess it depends on how you feel about Odell Beckham. I mean, if he's real coked out, he might have super energy. Be real good.
Well, Jonathan Stewart's going to take all his targets. So.
Oh my
I don't know. If I finished outside of the top 5 and I could still take Ezekiel, I'd be fine with that.
I think Elliott is more on the same tier with Kamara, Hunt, Shady, Dalvin Cook. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't make us think about Christian McCaffrey at number 9.
No, he proved towards the end of the year that the Panthers really wanted to feed him the ball. And as much as I've been down on Carolina in the past because I don't particularly like the attitude of their quarterback, I cannot deny that Newton in the playoff game played excellently, and he was starting to develop sort of a logic and a rhythm for how to get McCaffrey involved, as we saw in that game and some big games down the stretch. So I think Carolina could be a special team this season, and so I'm cool with it.
They have to draft a running back, right?
They just did.
There's no chance they drafted one. They drafted one in the first round last year.
Well, I'm not saying they draft a running back in the first round. I'm saying they end up taking a guy who runs between the tackles in like the 4th round,
They
right?
have Cameron Curtis-Payne. What are you talking? Major Payne. He's coming back for you. They still got the Foz.
I mean,
Fozzie Osborne on the roster. Oh, they're set.
But let's just say right now, how many carries per game do you project Christian McCaffrey to have?
12.
Okay, that's great. He's a top 10 running back.
Yes, that's because he's going to get 9 targets a game.
Yeah,
he is the biggest discrepancy between PPR value and standard value.
Oh, massive, yeah, because he can't run between the tackles.
And I would say that guys like Shady, Hunt, and Elliott are closer to Bell and Johnson in standard drafts, and Gurley is clear-cut the number 1 in standard.
Yes.
It's understandable. I like Crowell signing a lot, too.
Of course you fucking do.
No, but that's beyond where... Again, that's a team where he's right now the exclusive running back that you want to have.
Why? They still got Powell.
Doesn't it seem
they
like
still have Lizzie McGuire?
Isaiah Crowell has been the Jets running back the last 5 years?
I know!
It really feels like he has been. I love it.
So Crowell to the Jets, Powell's still there, Matt Forte retires, and like I said, Elijah McGuire is still there as well.
Right.
So
I wouldn't worry about them.
Look at what they did last season. They couldn't commit to one guy, and maybe this forces them.
Oh, they're like the Bachelor from this season?
Little bit. So they might say, Crowell, you have my rose week 1. But then all of a sudden, McGuire's playing 70% of the snaps week 2. And it's not like that offense is going to be super good. So
Little Quincy back.
Yeah, little Quincy. Going to make his return this season.
Quincy Noon was a very nice player, as is Robbie Anderson, as is Jermaine Kearse. That is a very competent
Super Bowl Jets! Jumbo Jets! Fly into the Super Bowl, Tim.
I never said any of that.
What do you think? Okay, one sec. What do you think? Give us your prediction for their record right now.
I have to see the schedule to see how many games.
What does it matter? The Jets are so supremely talented with all the depth and great players you just mentioned. 13 wins?
No, I think 8.
So, what is today? March what? 15th?
Yeah.
March 15th, 8 wins.
You yell at me for dating the show by making references. And
the show's coming out today, you tool.
And also, I mean, they would know just from the signings.
Yeah.
Like if someone major signs, if Ndamukong Suh signs like tonight and we don't talk about it, they'll be able to date the show.
March 15th, 8 wins for the Jets.
It was so obvious he was going to pick it.
What do you think that the over-under for what Tim is at the day after the draft?
He'll get to
Over-under 11 and a half
but by
wins.
the day after the draft?
Once he sees they pick let's say they draft like Rosen.
10.
And he's like, oh my God, Rosen! He's so chosen.
He gets
16-0.
He gets to 10 by the day after the
They
draft.
have Jermaine Curse, Garion.
By the first day of August, he's up to 11.
Okay. It'll be tough with the Bills winning the Super Bowl. But I guess.
But no, those are
the
the
Patriots are free wins though, according to Tim.
Yeah.
I do have some breaking news about Jordy Nelson.
Where did he go? Patriots?
Oakland.
It's okay.
Oakland.
So this kind of coincides with when I get to the wide receiver rankings why I had Amari Cooper over Michael Crabtree, because they said if they signed Jordy Nelson, they were probably going to cut Michael Crabtree, which seems crazy because Michael Crabtree is probably better than Amari Cooper. But here
He
we
should
are.
come to the Jets then.
Well, you just mentioned the 8 great receivers they have. How do they need more?
Just go 4 wide every time.
Okay, the Dolphins will sign him. We just need receivers.
I think he'll end up being a Cowboy.
Who was the guy? That's actually a good call. Who was the guy on The Simpsons who took all the hearts and they just overpowered everyone? We'll just have all the receivers. It's like the guy in your fantasy league that drafts 5 quarterbacks. Like, well,
Don't worry, I'll trade them.
Someone will have to make a trade with me because I have them all. Not a great strategy. So more signings. So Crow out of the Jets. I don't hate it. He's an RB2 potentially. Just he doesn't really receive, and maybe that was.
I think everyone learned their lesson last season. He's a fine running back, but he's someone who's only ever slated to get about 15
He falls
touches
into the
per
Frank
game.
Gore category in a weird way. He's a guy that plays every week. That's good.
That is a positive, yes.
But when you look at the end of the season, look at top 10 performances, and maybe he ends up becomes the bell cow, and I'm way off on this.
He's even different in the sense, though, where he's a guy who's got Frank Gore tendencies, but also has like old school CJ2K tendencies, where Crowell could have a 90-yard run, and then the next 30 to 35 carries are 2 yards, spread out across 7 games. And then
He's so good.
How's he going to score any touchdowns with Jermaine Curse scoring 40?
I never said that. There's a lot of mouths to feed in New York. Things are
Yeah.
turning around. This is a team that was an 8 or 9 win team last year at the league and screwed them out of a bunch of wins. Assuming the league isn't on to them, although they might try to protect those dying Patriots, they might do it again to us.
Well,
assuming that they don't.
How many games do you think that they win this year, Tim?
8 or 9.
So 8 or 9. So that's been a good 5 minutes. So we're now up to 9 wins. That's just excellent. Chris Ivory to the Bills, like you said, backup. Not devoid of fantasy relevance.
No,
not as a starter, but he'll get touches.
If he's someone who, in a standard, you're considering for flex each week, that's not a terrible position to be in.
No, listen, they hate giving Shady the ball near the goal line. They hate it. It took Tolbert getting hurt last season to give Shady the ball near the goal line.
Yeah, but they'll have a lot more opportunities this season, I think.
Carlos Hyde of the Browns. We kind of skimmed over this. I have him number.
I like it a lot.
Okay.
I think that's like 17. When you say the name Carlos Hyde, regardless of where I know he is, I'm he's an RB2. I already know that right off the top.
But do you worry that I mentioned like Duke Johnson's going to get pilfered away by Jarvis Landry? Like one of the reasons that Duke Johnson was a viable PPR player last year is because they were playing Crowell in the backfield and then splitting out Duke Johnson on the field at the same time. In the slot, that's probably not going to happen this season. So do we see more Duke Johnson in the backfield? And this is not assuming they draft anyone else.
Yeah.
That the split might end up becoming like 60-40. And then Carlos Hyde's not super valuable because if they're going to pass, probably going to pass Duke Johnson.
Yeah, and you would assume that, not that he was a huge target share guy, but he was someone you could rely on for like 30 to 40 targets a season.
Who? Carlos Hyde?
Hyde
was like Mr. Catches for the first 8 weeks last year.
I guess that's true.
Who was
But that was under the new system.
Who was
though,
that
so
loser
that's
that they
fair.
brought in between Hoyer and Garoppolo? CJ Beathard.
Oh, Beathard, yeah.
I like Beathard. Guilty Beathard. Or Danger Beathard.
Even better. Again, I think Hyde.
I
I don't know what could happen aside from them drafting Barkley, where I'd go, he's not just a low-end RB2 this season. Like, what would have to happen for you to not have him in that top 24?
I think there's a lot of moves that could happen that I could just move him down to like 21.
I would say
You know what I mean?
it's more.
Like he's only going down from 17.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think that would be more predicated on other situations changing, not
Yes.
so much the Brown situation. Like I think right now he's just what he is. He's a low-end RB2. He's someone who's not going to have a ton of volume, but you would expect him to at least have the goal line splits.
Yeah. Do you know
So he's
what
fine.
I had trouble ranking? Was Sex Rex Burkhead, who could be a top 10 running back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are running back moves to be made, right?
I personally shook his
Patriots?
hand and wished him well.
Yeah,
Did.
see how that worked
You
out.
also touched Goskowski, and then he said, "I don't believe in curses."
Yeah.
Then had the worst Super Bowl he's ever had.
You say superstition, you have your own superstition, but no bad luck. Will you shake this man's hand?
I don't know, should I?
I mean, I wouldn't, but you say, hey, no bad luck.
It's flu season, so.
He's got his flu shot. Don't worry about it.
Did he use hand sanitizer?
Listen, we watched
What TV station are you from?
You're with DK Live.
Where's that? Boston? So are you trying to jinx us or help us?
We're not trying to listen. That's the whole point.
We're not trying to jinx you whatsoever.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, I can't be blamed for that.
I think you 100% can be blamed for that.
What about the fact that Jeffrey wouldn't shake my hand, had that touchdown catch?
That's true. Refused to touch. So did Brandon. Was it Brandon Cook?
Why did you just bring up a point that served our point?
No, but like Ertz gave me a fist pound. He was fine.
Not great though. Not a
Donnie
great- not a
Jones
great
chatted
Zach
with us
Ertz
for a
game.
while.
Yeah. Now he retired.
Yeah, and they literally never had to punt. That was the beauty of
They
it.
knew. They scouted that one out well in advance. Who's Andrew Kirst? Who's not Andrew Kirst? All right, here we go.
That's why they went for it on those fourth downs. They're like, uh-oh, Donnie Jones shook Tim Anderson's hand. Everyone's out here praising Doug Peterson for his amazing futuristic sense of offense. It was not. Can't use Donnie Jones. Andrew Kirst. So yeah, Carlos Hyde's an RB2.
Yeah, but with Rex Burkhead, the way that they used him near the goal line and just their unwillingness to use
He could be new
Gillislee.
Amendola, which is interesting.
He's just always going to be on the field. Even when James White's on the field, Rex Burkhead could be on the field too. And I actually
James
have
White is a touchdown machine.
I have
He is the running back you want to own in New England.
it's not
But
the
he's
playoffs
not getting
thing.
the carries.
Yeah.
Like James White, what's his career high in carries? Like 6?
They had 5,000 running backs in New England in the
Yeah,
last couple of years.
but-
This year they've only got him and what's his name? They're
Burkhead?
Burkett. I think it's
and Gillislee
They
will
still
be
have
back too.
Gillislee, yeah.
Oh no, not Mike Gillislee. Oh no, how will we ever manage without Mike Gillislee? Oh boy, oh boy.
He might just have to dress, and if he's dressed, he'll probably get the goal line carries because
blah,
that's
blah,
how it
blah,
works.
blah 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 blah. He's meaningless.
Well, good news for a rebound stock. Bounce back. Mike, old Gillislee.
I'm all about James White this year.
All right, so great news for Rex Burkhead too. So maybe I should move him up over
But again, looking-
Gentleman Joe Mixon.
Looking at where Burkhead falls in your rankings, like you said, past Melvin Gordon, really. And even I'll go as far as like Devontae Freeman.
I was going to even say Fournette because with Melvin Gordon, I actually think they're committed to Austin Eckler being a part of that offense.
Fair, but I still think that once you get past, let's just say for argument's sake, even Joe Mixon, because we know Mixon is the bell cow in that offense. Once you get past that point, there are flaws with every single running back down the remainder of the list. So when you have a guy like Burkhead who, because he plays for an offense that not only is up-tempo and high scoring, but he's also someone who's a Swiss Army knife in that offense, is going to be on the field a whole lot, will have PPR value because he lines up as a literal receiver half the time. There's a case to be made that he could be definitely a top 20 running back. Then there's always the case that who knows what the Patriots are going to do. But I think unless, as of right now, the 3 running backs they have, and with the philosophy that Bill Belichick said they wanted last season, which is to bring a running back into the game and not instantly have the defense know if they're going to run or pass, he is the only guy who meets those qualifications.
And we'll see how it plays out if they end up signing him. The other running backs that I just kind of threw onto the list, Chris Thompson, Marlon Mack right now is the RB1
Yeah,
in Indianapolis.
he's
We'll say do something.
super intriguing.
Alex Collins, they did keep in Baltimore, so he's probably going to be the running back one. Aaron Jones and or Jamal Williams and or Ty Montgomery. I'm waiting to see how
a
that
messy situation.
shakes out just a little bit. Ingram, like you mentioned, Barkley's just not ranked. So Crowell, Marshawn Lynch, Chris Carson coming back for the Seahawks.
Yeah, that could be fun.
They decided not to keep Thomas Rawls
I mean, again,
or Mike Davis, so they're running out of options.
I'm not saying that
Lamar
they were
Miller.
flush with running back talent anyway, but
Donta Foreman, who's probably going to be pretty good.
I like Donta.
Coming off Achilles, I think, or is it shoulder for him? I forget.
I think it was his Achilles. I think it was a leg injury. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Devastating.
Well, it does matter, but no, I think that Carson Like, it's a chicken and the egg thing. How was Seattle's offensive line truly the worst in football last season, statistically, or by adjusted line yards? They say it was the second worst for run blocking. Or was it that they had, bad running backs running behind them? Like, the offensive line rankings are always kind of interesting, and you have to really think about them in a larger sense, because you look at a lot of, like, Indianapolis in terms of having the worst pass blocking offensive line. Part of that is just having quarterbacks that don't know when to get rid of the ball. Like, there is a give and take here. So Carson had some success in, was it 2 games he played?
He was their leading rusher through like week 14.
I know, but how many games did he actually play?
Like
2 or
two.
3? He had some success, but
16th round keeper.
there you go. That's nice.
I hope he comes back. Let's jump to wide receivers. So if we look at the rankings, we got Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell, Julio, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, AJ Green, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, and Doug Baldwin coming at number 10. We talk about the free agents. There's a lot of moves at wide receiver, a lot of overpaid wide receivers. I think the most significant...
What team's doing that?
The most significant wide receiver signing in my mind is Allen Robinson to the Bears.
I would say the most significant signing in terms of free agent for the top 10 wide receivers might be Jimmy Graham. Because I have some serious concerns now about just Devontae Adams. I understand that now he's the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think losing Nelson and just having Adams, like, are we sure Jimmy Graham's going to be all that awesome? He strikes me as the guy that's going to be the most overdrafted player.
To be fair, I think that Jimmy Graham is someone who just for the natural qualifications of what makes a tight end viable, he does the exact thing you need him to do, which is he'll just be a guy who's a target in the red zone. That would worry me a little bit for Devontae Adams, who also derives a lot of his value from just being the guy who gets touchdowns inside the red zone.
Listen, if you give me a limited, you have
without Nelson though, he's the number 1, so it's fine. I'm just saying that, like, in terms of affecting the top 10, that's probably the move that had the most impact. Because
the 11, because I have Allen Robinson at number 22 in the rankings, just for full disclosure here, because I want to see. That offense isn't great. Let's be real here. But they signed Gabriel as well, someone to stretch the field. And with Cam Meredith coming back, and they bring in Trey Burton, they still have Adam Sheehan. And even listen, I'm not big on Jordan Howard affecting stuff out of the backfield outside between running and the tackles, but you have Cohen back there too. That is someone that you have to account for in the receiving game. That's going to be really hard to double Allen Robinson.
Oh, sure. He's probably got, I would say you could pencil him in right now for 30 to 35% of their team target share, which means he'll get 3.
If that's the case, then I should have him way up.
He'll get 3 to 3.5 targets per game because they throw the ball 10 times.
That has to change.
Yeah, probably. But they also run an exceedingly slow offense. So again, you have to ask yourself the question, how much of their offensive strategy last year, a new offensive coordinator with Nagy, so like this could all change. How much of their offensive philosophy last year was just, we don't trust this kid, we don't want him to do too much, let's literally never throw the football and also run the slowest paced offense in the league to just cut down on
plays
plays
they had
entirely.
John Fox as their coach, and he wants to run an offense like it's 1991. You know who approved
Well, he
of that
couldn't be
offense?
startled by anything or he'd have a heart attack.
You know who approved of the Bears' offense last year? Tim. It was real gritty.
I don't think I ever said that.
It sounds like an offense you would like, though, like one that would have existed 30 years
the
ago.
forward
Why
pass-
can't we just go back to the way it was?
The forward pass
I'm more
ruined
of an
football.
Eric Coryell offense guy.
So I like Allen Robinson. I mean, fantasy-wise, Taylor Gabriel's, he'll be like a DFS play week to week to week. Cam Meredith coming back, I do think is very interesting. Just you have one guy that's a pretty good route runner in Cam Meredith, good hands. You have a guy that stretches the field in Taylor Gabriel, and Allen Robinson sort of the mix of both.
Yeah.
So you're just going to see a lot of targets 15 to 30 yards downfield. Like, he's probably never going to hit the heights that he saw 3 years ago with 80 catches and 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns, but he's going to be a lot better than the guy that we saw 2 years ago.
Are we ready? I know he's not inside your top 10, but is it justifiable when it definitely happens when Trey Burton is inside some people's top 10 at tight end?
I mean, I like Adam Sheehan. Like, I think that's a real thing.
But don't you feel like, well, I mean, I guess it's tough, though. I mean,
If you're going to start divvying everything up, I just mentioned 6 players that could catch passes on this team.
No,
Unless he
that's fair.
catches every touchdown, it's going to be tough to be a top 10.
don't you feel like of the two, though, he would take the quote-unquote Martellus Bennett role of being the one who has to stay back and block?
Who, Trey Burton?
No. Sheenan.
I don't know.
Like, neither. I don't think either is especially good as a blocking tight end, but they're going to cut Deion Sims, who is their blocking tight end.
I mean, I wouldn't look outside of Allen Robinson. I don't think I would want to mine the Bears for fantasy upside.
That's probably just fair, too.
That's probably a better strategy to
That's
take.
probably the way to go.
Tim, do you like Allen Robinson? I'm going to guess no.
I think he's fine. I think he's the only legit, as much as you like the sledgehammer, is the only legit receiver. I think he's okay. I think a lot of it depends on whether you think Trubisky can bounce, sort of like way Goff did last year with an under impressive first year and a pretty decent second year. I'm a little more bearish. I didn't mean that as a pun, but I'm bearish on Trubisky this year vis-a-vis Goff. But you make a fine case with Robinson. There are 3 receivers I want to ask you questions about, and if you're ready, I can ask you about them. The first is Juju Smith-Schuster. Seems to me that guy should be top 30 minimum, and yet he isn't. And I'm curious as to what did he not show you, or what do you anticipate from Pittsburgh's offense to make you think that kid isn't going to be a superstar?
Honestly, I got to 20, or I got to Allen Robinson because I knew that we were going to bring him up, and then I stopped caring and wrote down names.
I mean,
To be perfectly honest.
it's hard though.
It's going to be a week to week. Is Martavis Bryant going to be a thing this season? And now that Vance McDonald we saw towards the end of the season, is he someone that's just... I always find it hard, and maybe Juju Smith-Schuster is the one to buck this trend, but outside of Le'Veon Bell, outside of Antonio Brown, it's a week-to-week thing with everyone else.
And I think, again, when you look from Allen Robinson on, you've got Alshon, who, if you've got Carson Wentz as a top 5 quarterback this season, it would stand to reason that Alshon Jeffrey's going to have a very good year.
But he also has Aguilar to throw to. He also has Zach Ertz
and that's
to throw
fair,
to.
but the same argument can be made about the Steelers.
Sure, but at least they do. Antonio Brown's always going to eat.
Yes, but I'm just saying, when you're talking about Juju should be a top 30 receiver, I can understand having that thought process, but again, it's like, who is then removed from the top 30? And it's like, I don't feel comfortable taking Alshon out of the top 30, nor Diggs. Goodwin, Tim, would you rather own Goodwin or Juju?
Juju.
But you have to own all the 49ers. That's what you said.
Yeah, well, I think of the receivers, you want Garcon anyway.
Is Garcon? I thought he got cut.
I don't believe so.
I thought they were trying to restructure his deal, and if not, it was...
They may. The other 2 receivers I want to bring up, because you're infatuated with Watson, which is fine, and that means the guy who was the most affected by Watson was, of course, Will Fuller. Will Fuller was a touchdown a game guarantee, right? Every time that Watson played. So where does Will Fuller figure in?
Well, clearly not inside the top 30 because he's not on the fucking list you're looking at.
Now, that is a very useful answer to my question.
Well, you're looking at the list, and with a note,
I
did a top 30 ranking. I didn't consider who's going to be number 46.
But again,
why don't you talk about Will Fuller is what I'm asking.
Oh, okay. Here's what you need to know about Will Fuller. He got 5 touchdowns on 8 catches.
See, I kind of like him.
Of course you fucking do. He went to Notre Dame.
But again, Tim,
That's besides the point.
No, it's not. It's not besides the point, because if he didn't go to Notre Dame, you'd say he's a flash in the pan, and he can't sustain what he did.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
Again, I just look at...
Why don't you tell us about Golden Tate and how good he is, too?
I don't have any other Irish questions. I was going to ask you about Dez as well.
About Dez? I got Dez.
Yeah.
I got Dez out of the rankings.
Yeah, I know. Just I'm wondering, can Dez move himself in? Last year he was in the second round of players to pick. So
bad pick.
It is, but do we really just give up on Dez? Or I would not be shocked whatsoever if they made a big bounce back with him.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dez got cut either.
Okay.
Yeah, the situation seems bleak. I feel like for me, he's still kind of in Alshon Jeffrey territory.
I need to see Dez play in the preseason.
And that's
see
fair.
If he's any good.
Look, and you look at his numbers, and health has a lot to do with this, obviously, but you look at his numbers with Dak and his numbers without Dak, his catch rate goes from 67% to 50%. Clearly, he's unhappy and unhealthy in this offense. It's not a great situation. He's been a bad fantasy commodity the last 2 years. But in the sense where Corey Davis, Robbie Anderson, and Emmanuel Sanders, and even Marquise Goodwin make this list because of sheer volume.
And that's it.
Dez is going to have volume. He's going to have over 150 targets this season. He had it last year.
I don't even know about. Especially if they end up with Crabtree.
Yes.
That's something. A lot of these situations are in flux. Is Marquise Goodwin going to end up coming number 26 in these rankings if San Francisco signs Michael Crabtree?
No.
Then no, he's not. Yeah. So a lot of that's why I didn't want to go too deep with the wide receivers, Tim, because there's a lot of stuff in flux with some of them.
How does the Jordy thing affect your Cooper rank? Is Cooper out of the top 30 now?
Yeah.
Do you care that much about Jordy?
I think Jordy Nelson's washed.
Oh, he might be done.
By the way.
100%. I'm just wondering if it affects the ranking at all.
If they get rid of Crabtree, I might actually move Murray Cooper up. because I don't think Nelson's going to do much.
You believe in John Gruden?
No, I don't.
You don't think that
And
Jordy Nelson's going to be a
Nelson does
grinder
seem like
this
a
year?
grinder. That does seem true. And I don't think Derek Carr is all that great. He's fine.
I kind of like Derek.
Of course you do.
Do you feel like John Gruden's only going to sign players from like the big market teams because
Those are the only ones he
guys
saw?
he's seen the last couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be such a disaster.
Here's a guy.
That's going to be every play. Here's a guy. You got to target that guy.
Here's a play.
So Cooper at 25. Yeah, I just want to get to more of these signings. Tim, you love Sammy Watkins every single season. One of the main reasons Sammy Watkins is so bad is that he is constantly cursed. And the main reason, he's a lot like Mark Ingram used to be. That Sammy Watkins, like I've mentioned this in the short video I wrote it up too, that he's going to win 3 people $1 million this year.
Yeah.
There's 3 40-point weeks.
Yep.
The rest of the
Can
weeks...
it be me?
No. And the rest of the weeks, he's going to score like 2 points.
Yeah.
He is the 4th option in this offense. It goes Kareem Hunt, who's going to get the most touches. Then we talk about market share. It's going to be Kelsey. Then it's going to be Hill. Then it's going to be Watkins. Tim,
How many yards roughly do you think Travis Kelce's going to get this season?
We'll save that for my Travis Kelsey ranking. How about
Okay,
that?
that's fair.
But I'm not. I am bearish on Sammy Watkins. I think he's a better real life signing for this offense than he actually is in terms of being a viable fantasy guy. And people will talk themselves into Patrick Mahomes has such a good arm. Sammy Watkins can run deep. Everything that they're going to say that Sammy Watkins is, Tyreek Hill is just better at.
Yeah, I think he's a good insurance policy for Kelsey, who also, with his concussion issues, doesn't play or may not play as much.
It's true. Sammy Watkins is a beacon of health.
He isn't, but you're saying if they're to lose one of their 4 players and all those guys, the way they play and the way they run, the way they're used, I think he's an interesting player for them to have. I think he's going to be. He is supremely skilled. I don't know how he'll fit into the offense, but I know he makes them better. So in terms of fantasy, do we want? I mean, I think you want him in particularly in like a 16-team league. I think you definitely want him in a 10.
He's going to be drafted in a 16-man
Yeah,
league.
but the whole thing is that people will talk themselves into Watkins, and he'll end up going in like the 5th round.
Yeah.
It happens
that would
every
be too high.
single season. People believe
That would be
this
too
is the end. You know what?
It's true. Like you said, it only takes one person believing to drive the price
Eventually,
up.
they'll be right. And Sammy Watkins will eventually have one of these 1,200, 1,300-yard years, and it'll be awesome. Almost like we saw, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the back end of the season, when he was fire with Tyrod Taylor. And he'll go through these stretches. But just, we talk about untrustworthy fantasy players. Now in a situation where volume is not going to be on his side, no thanks.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't want him this season at all. And like you said, it just takes one person to drive up his value.
Tim.
And someone, it might be Tim.
So your Miami Dolphins,
Yeah, let's
Gary.
talk about them.
Danny Amendola and Albert Wilson, who Tim loves. I actually think, and maybe this is a flaw in me, but I think with Tannehill coming back, no Jarvis Landry around, it's going to be either Parker or Stills that benefits the most. And I'm just going to say, talent-wise, let's go with Parker.
Well, here's the thing. This is maybe why, and I don't want to give Tim any credit.
Tim, the Dolphins cut Julius Thomas. What do you make of that?
I hope he goes to the Jets. We need a tight end.
God. Then you might want to look in a different direction.
Here's the reason why, if you want to be a little optimistic about Albert Wilson, and I'm not, just putting it out there, I'm not. But if you want to talk yourself into, the one game he was the wide receiver 1 last season with Patrick Mahomes, he caught 140 yards and 10 catches.
Thank you.
If you want to play that game, what are the odds Devontae Parker gets through a season healthy? He's reaching Sammy Watkins
Let's say
level.
20%.
Yeah, he's new Sammy Watkins with foot injuries. Foot injuries are a terrible thing to have if you're a wide receiver.
You know who never gets hurt? Kenny Stills.
Kenny Stills never gets hurt. But I think that I don't think the Dolphins are going to lead the league in like pass ratio again this season. That was very much predicated on the fact that, I mean, they were a 6-10 team by the end of the year, even those 6 wins. I think their point differential was like minus 110. Like, they were the Browns. They just happened to win a couple close games. If they won a game, it was by 3 points. If they lost, it was by 30. So they passed a lot in these situations. Adam Gase showed when the team is, I don't even want to say competitive, but like 500, which they'll probably will be every single season for his tenure, he's going to run the football. He wants to run the football. So the volume's not going to be massive, but when Devontae Parker definitely gets hurt at some point, I think Stills is going to be a really nice guy to own.
Don't they still have like Leonte Carew and like that Grant guy? How many receivers
I
do
think,
they have?
I think I wouldn't I mean, Caru's got to be cut at this point. Like, I think they keep Grant just because he's kind of a special teams phenom. He's at least... That was what as soon as Amendola signed, it was like, man, Deontay Carew must be the worst. Because I just don't understand. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't understand it. But you've now got Danny Amendola and Devontae Parker as 2 of your top 4 receivers. If they combined to play 16 games, I'll be shocked.
So, Tim, you like all these moves.
I like some of them. I don't particularly like the Amendola move that much. I think the Wilson one is interesting, and I think he could be a meaningful player. I like that they're giving some options to Tannehill, but, the Dolphins are the worst team in the division, and this doesn't really make them that much better. So, I don't know.
I'm kind of pumped that he's out.
Yeah, I'm going to say, this is the first time you're not picking the Dolphins to win the division in a decade.
He might be right, but I'm kind of glad he's out on them.
No, that's because Buffalo's a very special team this year.
Paul was just putting his head down and shaking it at this point.
Well, that's the problem with winning, even in the smallest amounts. All of a sudden, you open yourself up to be Andercursed.
It's true.
Yeah, if you start to win and make the playoffs, you're on my radar now, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Jets should have won 13 games last year. The refs screwed them.
Well, how many
Well, we
games?
did get
How many games?
screwed.
Okay, so how many games is Buffalo going to have to win? Like, how many games are the Jets going to win?
I think Buffalo needs to win 10 or 11 max.
Because the Jets are going to win 9 or 10.
8 or 9. I know what you're trying to do, and you won't fool me. I don't fall for your tricks, Dewey.
He's cracking himself up over there with Night at the Roxbury references.
Everyone's
Paul Richardson signs with Washington. We talk about P. Rich a little bit.
I mean, he's
Crowder,
probably like a top 45 guy, right?
Well, they still have Doxson. They still have Crowder.
I guess Doxson.
They still have Reed healthy for the moment.
Doxson or Paul Richardson right now?
Doxson.
Okay.
I'm a sucker for Doxson.
P. Rich.
Torrey Smith traded to the Panthers when Tim was in his rebuilding mode in Dynasty last year. Instead of drafting young players with potential
Torrey
upside, he
Smith.
drafted Torrey Smith.
I like Torrey Smith.
He's a really nice guy.
This actually works.
He's the Curtis Granderson of football.
This works out really well for Funchess. I actually think so. I ended up ranking Funchess at number 20, one spot behind Cooper Kupp. Funchess was just a magnet for targets
Yeah,
last
he was
year.
great
And if you
last
have
year.
Torrey Smith on the other side, able to not, as long as you don't have the mirror version of Devin Funchess, who is, fuck's his name now in Buffalo. Kelvin Benjamin is terrible.
Yeah.
On the other side, and you have a guy who can run down the field.
Well, yeah,
Now you still
they
have
at least
Russell
now have a
Shepard,
guy who
you have
runs-
Curtis Samuel. You got some speed
Yeah.
on the field now.
They have a target that runs better than a 4.6 40, which is maybe a little bit important just to stretch the field.
So I mean, I don't hate the move for fantasy. No.
No, he's not a fantasy option, but he's
No.
someone who could make that team better.
Dante Moncrief signs with Jacksonville,
That's kind of interesting.
Moncrief.
and they re-signed Marquise Lee
That's
instead
Yeah,
of.
they don't know. They don't know what they're doing in Jacksonville, which is obvious.
This is good news for Jacksonville again.
I don't think they have-
the
I
most.
don't
And
think-
the most when we did the Custy Awards, which you can go rewatch if you want to right now. Just search Custy Awards.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten enough
You'll
of us the
find
last 2 hours.
The most Andercursed team of the 2017 season, any sport, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, that was fun.
They're frauds.
Most reverse cursed. Look at them. They almost went to the Super Bowl.
I should have bet 2 farms. Only bet 1.
I only bet one farm on them to win the
Unfortunate.
division at 7-1 because of Tim's stance that they were not going to win a game.
They're terrible, and they're going to be bad again this year.
They weren't bad last
Yeah, how
year. When
can
you
you
say
be bad
bad again,
again?
how can they be like worse than they were
Or
last
I guess
year?
they
can
will
see-
be once again bad.
Ah.
I shouldn't have said again. I should have said once again.
Okay, now here's the big thing. The Ravens cut Jeremy Maclin. They spent a whole bunch of money on Ryan Grant and John Brown.
Yeah.
Deep passes.
Smart thinking.
Well, again, Flacco likes 3 areas to pass the ball.
They still have,
Running backs,
they still have-
50 yards down the field, and the ground.
and they cut Danny Woodhead too. So I always forget the Moore on Baltimore. It's
Chris
either
Moore.
Chris Moore or Marlon Moore, who used to play for the Ravens
Yeah,
potentially.
Chris Moore is the current Baltimore Raven.
Okay. Ryan Grant makes sense as like a route runner, I think. That he
Yeah.
could just get a lot of targets.
Sure.
That's all I got.
What about real high hairline? What about 5 head?
Brashad Perriman? Is he
Brashad
still even on the
Perriman.
team? Or do they cut him?
I think he's still there.
So bad. I know. Just Macklin's actually kind of interesting somewhere.
Sure, but how much are you really willing to invest in this passing?
I'm not at all. But I mean, if there's one of these guys that can establish themselves as the 30 to 35% market share guy, it's probably the one who runs the shortest ADOT.
Yeah.
There could be value there in terms of PPR, in terms of A wide receiver 5, someone you need to flex that won't get you 0 points, might get you 8 points a week. If that's what you're looking for in a deeper league, that's not unvaluable.
Oh, no, sure. There's somebody there who's going to be a flex consideration each week, but that's the most you're getting. Like we've already mentioned, you've got your top 30. We've already mentioned 10 guys who I like more than that. Once you get inside the top 40, you're strictly talking flex.
Rapid fire through the middle part of the wide receiver rankings here. Just quick thoughts. I like Demaryius Thomas in a rebound with Case Keenum. I like Sanders and Demaryius Thomas to rebound.
Like you said, the target share, they could both have a 30% target share.
Yeah. It was like kind of Crabtree and Cooper, where just you always know that they were going to get the ball.
They also had a
I
believe they had the second highest pass rating last season. Now again, a lot of that is do we think Denver's going to be as bad as they were this season as they were last year?
Even just look at Demaryius' stats from last year. Almost 949 yards, 83 receptions, 5 touchdowns.
He gets 3 more touchdowns. He's fine.
I mean, he's going to improve on all those numbers.
Yeah.
Sanders was banged up most of last year, too. I mean, Demaryius, I think people forget, went over 100 catches and 1,000 yards for like 3 straight years before that. And, I mean, one of those was a bad Peyton Manning year and Brock Lobster.
People are just desensitized to him.
And I don't think that Case Keenum is all that good. It's just
he's better.
Compare him to Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler. He might as well be fucking Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So
it's a massive
Sanders
improvement.
is like the Michael Westbrook of fantasy 10 years ago. An excellent player that people don't like picking.
Do you mean
Remember
Brian
how
Westbrook?
Yeah, you're talking about Brian Westbrook?
Sorry, Brian Westbrook.
There was a
He-
Michael
he-
Westbrook.
I believe that's his brother.
Played for the
That's
Redskins.
that's who he's become. A very good player that no one wants to take, but is very valuable.
I would say he's more Marvin Harrison than anything.
Well, he's now portrayed by Reba. So
I'm a Reba! T.Y. Hilton, number 16. This is all dependent on Andrew
look,
Luck.
sure. But let's say
Crabtree to the Colts? Macklin to the Colts?
Crabtree to the Colts could be fun.
No one to the Colts?
Yeah, the Colts aren't going to sign. They're not going
Well,
to.
no,
they're not
they'll-
going to field a team this year.
They'll sign Crabtree, and then when he's 30 minutes away from his introductory press conference, he'll just, be like, nah, sorry, guys. I'm
so
going to go
they
back
could
to
not field
Oakland.
So I mentioned that I like Cooper Kupp more than I like Robert Woods because I expect Woods to draw the number ones that Sammy Watkins was drawing.
And that's a
and
hell
that's
of a
a
slate.
murderer's
Oh
row
my God, is that
of
a
bad
slate of
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks?
Matchups.
Whoa.
So Cooper Kupp from a PPR perspective and that red zone perspective I like a lot. The one name that I think we do need to hit on before we move on to tight
Higbee.
ends is not Higbee.
Oh.
No.
Higbee.
Number 18 in these rankings, Julian Edelman. I totally
Yeah.
forgot he was the thing, but
He isn't a thing.
maybe he's not a thing.
Tom Brady will be top 3 in attempted passes this season. Julian Edelman will be
Maybe.
his number 1 target.
I don't think either of those things are true.
Well, the one that you think is false is important. So which one do you think is false?
I don't think he will be top 3 in attempted passes.
Okay.
Let's say he's
I
top
think the
5
Patriots are trying to
in
win.
passes it.
When he starts to play poorly, you can't have him throwing the ball 100,000 times a game. They'll have to hand the ball off more.
That's true. Well, in that narrative, you are correct. I think that
I was on narrative street.
you can.
You do live on, unless you live on like Costa Ave. Narrative Street is like the one other place where you reside.
You've lost it. I don't like Edelman that much this year. Again, coming off a terrible injury.
Only
On a
Teddy Bridgewater, the one with the most devastating knee injury, is the one who will rebound from a knee injury.
I never said
Everyone
he
else
will rebound.
sucks. Can't do it. Can't even walk. What are they gonna do? Score touchdowns with a walker?
Oh, like Bill Dotrieve?
Yeah, like the bulldozer. Anyway, I think that Edelman, from a PPR perspective, is going to be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He
doubt
runs the route tree that you want.
And Tim doubts it, which makes it even better.
A whole lot of 13 receptions, 72-yard gains for Julian Edelman.
So let's get to tight ends to close this out. I have Travis Kelce at number 1. Do you want to know why I have Travis Kelce at number 1, Gary?
I feel like this isn't as hot a take as you think it is.
I know, I don't think so either. But I sat down with Travis Kelce.
I'll be the judge of that.
And I asked him whether he was going to get 2,000 yards with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And he did not say he was going to get 2,000 yards. But here's what he had to say.
Over under 2,000 yards for you next year with Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh.
Because you can
I'm
just run
s-
wind
I'm gonna
sprints down the
say-
seam, and he's just going to hit you 100 yards downfield.
I can see it happening. I'm going to say just under, around 1,800.
He's modest. I'm only going to get 1,800 yards.
He doesn't like the right type of chicken wings, though.
Oh wait, are you a drummies or a wing guy?
He's a wing guy.
I'm a flat wing guy. That's the
He's also
only
a flat Earth guy.
No, I am not. The flat wings are superior to the drums in almost every way.
No, they're not. Drums are better.
We ran a
Drums
poll on
have-
this and Tim lost. Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't really lose.
There's a reason.
He didn't
that if
really lose because he didn't lose by as much as he usually loses by.
Yeah, this is at least an argument, but there's a reason when I go to restaurants, there's things under chicken wings that says if you want drums only, it's an extra $2 because drums are better.
Even though there's worse meat and the meat is less tender and you get more gristle on the outside.
Well, I mean, let's say Travis Kelce, because he's the number 1 tight end, his vote counts for way more than all of ours combined. Let's see what Travis Kelce has to say.
Bone in the wing or like boneless?
I'm traditional. I'm traditional wings. I don't even know what is a boneless wing.
This is what we were talking about. They're
I don't
not
even
a thing.
know what it is.
It's a nugget.
It's a nugget, but where does the nugget come from?
I don't know.
Where on the?
It's not the wing meat.
Is it the wing? Yeah, it
No,
can't
it's
be
not.
the wing meat.
So are you a drumstick or are you like the double wing guy?
I'm a drumstick. I'm a one-handed wing eater.
And just
I'm just turning the bone.
Drumstick. for
Yeah,
Travis
but I'm the
Kelce.
tribune of the people.
Now, you're just a fucking moron.
No, I'm not.
No, I think Kelce is the consensus number 1 tight end.
Is he? It's not Gronk?
I would think it's Kelce.
I would think it's the tier. Kelce, Gronk, and Ertz. 1,
Oh,
2,
sure,
3.
that's the tier, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think having Kelce at number 1 is differing from the consensus this year.
Okay.
I just mean, like, Gronk said he might retire. I don't think anyone thought he was going to, but I think that's where we're at with
Oh,
Gronkowski.
I wish we weren't filming something right now because I have a good joke for that, but I can't say it on the air because I might get fired. But you can imagine what it could be.
Yes. The opportunities are endless. I'm very excited. Yeah, I think the Evan Ingram thing, that's where it gets interesting, is the Ingram, Graham, Olsen, Rudolph.
I just feel like Jimmy Graham has the potential to be the most overdrafted player this year. Now, there's 2 narratives to this in terms of Jimmy Graham signing with the Packers. Yes, there's no Jordy Nelson, so that frees up a lot of targets. I don't know. I mean, just look at Jimmy Graham's stats from last year. It's all touchdowns, no receptions. Now, it could be 16 touchdowns
But I think
this year.
if there was ever a player who it seems like is set up to have a high touchdown expectancy, it is Graham.
But is it going to be one of these things where he catches a touchdown every week? Because if he doesn't, he might be a guy who scores like 0.9 points.
I know, but I think
when we talk about consistency, he should not be in that tier with the top 3 guys.
I don't think he is. Do you think he'll be put there?
Yes, I think that he'll be drafted as the number 4 tight end.
I
think, and maybe I'm way off on that because I see the upside, I see the ceiling. For Jimmy Graham, but I also see the downside as well.
No, I think he's perfectly ranked here because I see him as a rich man's Kyle Rudolph. And if Kyle Rudolph's going to be your number 7 tight end, then yeah, Jimmy Graham has to be a top 5 guy. He is someone who essentially will, if he's used between the 20s at all, that's a bonus. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Here's my view in that, while I was sort of critical of Kirk Cousins earlier, one of the things I think that boosted Jordan Reed's skill set, results, has to do
There was
more
no other Notre Dame player that I wanted to talk about.
has to do with Cousins. So I think Cousins really likes the tight end position, and I think Rudolph will actually benefit quite a bit this year. And so I think you have Rudolph at 7. I would like Rudolph probably at 5.
But what's
I'm dropping
what's
Rudolph.
the better?
I'm
No,
putting-
keep him at 7.
No, I'm going to move Jack Doyle ahead of him with luck back.
Don't do that.
I will. I'd rather
Well,
have.
with luck back, maybe that's.
I'd rather have
justifiable.
Jack Doyle with luck back.
But the thing with
I don't
Rudolph is like,
understand
what's
your dislike of Rudolph.
no, but what's the best? I like him.
sounds
He's definitely
he sounds
someone
very
who.
Anderson.
If you own Kyle Rudolph, you are not streaming tight ends this season. That's one of the best
Correct.
compliments I can give about a tight end. But what's the better version of Kyle Rudolph? Like Kyle Rudolph is someone who's going to end the season with 65 catches, 600 to 700 yards, and 9 touchdowns.
And 9
That's
touchdowns is still a lot, by the
perfectly
way.
fine.
It could be 5 touchdowns.
But I'm just saying to Tim, like, how is Kirk Cousins going to improve those numbers? That is, Kyle Rudolph is a floor player. He is not a ceiling player. And there's nothing wrong with that at tight end, but he is most certainly closer to the floor than he is the ceiling.
I think the yards would probably come up, but other than that, I probably agree with you.
I see Diggs' yards going up.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Check down
They'll
artist.
be
Kirk Cousins
in the
is
red
a
zone.
panicky guy. Check down artist. Being paid like a good quarterback. You know what? I'm glad we don't have him. I really am. I woke up the other morning thinking, you know what? We dodged a bullet by not wasting our money on this fraud.
So the rest of the tight end rankings: Graham, Olsen, Rudolph, Hunter Henry, Jack Doyle, and Delaney Walker.
Hunter Henry is going to eat. Hunter Henry is amazing. I know we shouldn't be there.
That was actually quite funny.
That's pretty good, yeah.
That was funny.
That might actually be your most accurate impression.
know about that.
Hey, can I ask Christopher a question? Is he still there?
I'm here. I have to go testify about the whole Natalie Wood stuff soon, but I'm here now.
Tim making very dark Christopher Walken jokes.
Yeah. Christopher, why did you wear your pants so high at the Oscars?
You see, it wasn't that my pants were too high. It's that my tie was too long. So it looked like my pants were. I'm a very high-waisted person, which is why I was able to carry that watch inside me so effectively.
Fun fact about Tim. He wears his pants at exactly the same height, except he doesn't wear tuxedos. He wears basketball shorts with sweater vests tucked into them.
That's not always true.
Yeah.
Very high-waisted.
Yeah.
And the other tight end signings were, let's see here. Trey Burton signs with the Bears. We talked about that. Derek Carrier signs with the Raiders. Top-notch news there. Virgil Green. I have it to the Rams, but I believe it was the Chargers where he actually went. Stupid, too many LA teams getting me confused. And Niles Ball goes to Jacksonville. They also re-signed Ben Koyak. Darren Fells signs with Cleveland, too. Well, I'll check for any breaking news here.
I mean, I'm sure Tim will have something to say about Ben Koyak.
Yeah, Tim, you love Ben Koyak?
No. The only breaking news I've seen is that Mike Pouncey's demanded his release from the Dolphins, and it's being granted.
Oh, Christ. That might be for the best.
Jordy Nelson expected to sign in Oakland. Oh, and Ndamukong Suh working out for the Saints.
That could be interesting.
Houston put C.J. Fedorowicz on reserve/retired list.
Yeah, he was thinking about that.
So Steven
Too
Anderson.
many concussions.
You know what? Steven Anderson becomes an interesting sleeper
Yeah,
tight end
sure.
because of that. I mean, every team is in on Suh. Seahawks have interest in Ndamukong Suh.
Seahawks, Raiders, Cowboys. I've heard Patriots.
Yeah, so nothing new. Oh, Frank Gore to the Lions.
I saw that. That makes me happy.
Just savvy move by the Lions.
Just 2-yard carries for forever.
I don't mind that.
What? They had the worst offensive line in football last season.
Tim, are you excited for Terrell Pryor potentially signing with the 49ers?
Well,
I kind of
I've
would
been
be.
so critical of him for so long that I don't know what I would do. Put me in a weird spot where I would either have to go with my position that the Niners are incredibly loaded and everyone will a rising tide lifts all boats. So even someone as terrible as Pryor can be improved by
Tim,
Garoppolo.
tides are fake news in the world of flat Earth.
Yeah, that's right. Why doesn't the water spill off the side?
Defensive-wise, just very quickly, any one defensive signing, like the Rams really beefed up their secondary, like I talked about with Talib and Marcus Peters. Smart move, real savvy move by the Dolphins. They cut Sue and get Quinn.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about it.
Smart.
Sam
Shields also went to the Rams.
I like what the Bills have done. Again, I like how they beefed up their secondary.
Me too.
Well, they're going to win 14 games according to Tim. Of course,
true.
he likes it.
Yeah.
Darn good team they got there.
Malcolm Butler to the Titans.
Were you just messing with me, or is Mike Pouncey actually?
No,
getting released by the Dolphins?
I'm not
Oh, he
messing
is?
with you. Schefter reported it.
Huh.
Richard Sherman, good or bad?
I think it's okay. I thought it was very telling that Richard Sherman, when tweeting out, like he thought he was kind of like gonna get ahead of the stat nerds by being like, "These are my advanced stats," and it was like since 2011. It's like that's great. What are they from 2016 to 2017? No, he's fine.
Tim, do you like Sherman in San Francisco?
No, he doesn't because he had a major
No,
leg
I was
injury.
waiting for him to say yes.
Oh.
Tim, what do you think of Richard Sherman this year?
It
doesn't matter what you think.
All right. That's very kind of you to say.
That'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Spent way too much time talking about rankings that are absolutely meaningless.
It's football.
Yeah, football. Get some football. I think people just like to hang with us. They're going to be
If you
people.
want meaningless ranks, I can do that.
Yes, you can always follow Tim on Twitter at
Tim Anderson 87.
Tim Undergust.
Tim Andergust.
That is not my name or my Twitter account. I only run one Twitter account.
You also run a 7.940, as we found out.
That was not true either.
It was a 7.4.
It was a 6.
No, it wasn't. You left early, Tim. When
No,
you run,
on the one that was 6.6, I left early. On the one that was 6.8, I left on
you left
time.
early on both. That's why you had to run 3 times.
No, the first time it wasn't being filmed correctly.
The camera adds 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, it's
I've been on
150
camera
pounds and extra seconds to your 40 time.
I don't know if I can break 7, so I really can't make fun of him.
I kind of want to keep trying to see if I can break 5 now.
You can't break 5.
Well, I did.
Not at your age.
I ran a 5.2.
Yeah, but you're old. You
Yeah,
can't
but
break
I'm in much better shape 6 weeks later than I was then, and I was running in like skinny jeans. Give me some shoes, give me some shorts. I can break 5.
Didn't Goodell run a 5.2?
Yeah, I mean, here's the sneaky little thing. Like, you're not super fast if you break a 5-second 40.
Oh, I know.
If you run a
I'm just-
4.3, you're super fast.
But I'm just
A
surprised
like
that Goodell
9.9
even had a
isn't super
5.2.
fast.
I was like, good for Roger
He's
Goodell.
an athlete. Garion Thorne, you can follow him on Twitter at Garion Thorne. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All my rankings will be up on DKPlaybook.com. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience wherever you can download podcasts, specifically iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all fine places, and sub to the Vidya up on the DraftKings YouTube page. Give the episode a like, too. Always goes a long way and helps mitigates all the downvotes I know we're going to get, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the upcoming NFL Draft, too. I'll be back before then anyway. But I'll see you next time.